Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, a very warm welcome to the European Nations Pro Cup, coming to you live from the Kesselhaus in München. And this is part two of two. Yes, something like that. Well, Troy is going to explain to us because this is a very, very special event. This is the Pro Nations Cup, but we've already seen the rookies compete. So this goes all together somehow. Please explain, Troy. How does this work?
I don't know how deep I can get into it. Not a math guy, but you know, it's the rookies were earlier on. Their points are accumulated. Their positions are figured out, and then those points are going to come into the pros, and then the pros are going to compete. Those points are going to be accumulated. Their positions are going to be measured out, and we're going to figure out who the Timber Sports Nation is today.
Oh, well, that sounds logic to me. We've got, of course, a field reporter live in the Kesselhaus, and that is no one else than this beautiful woman here. Pia, how are you doing? Everything good?
I'm doing great, thank you. Welcome back at the European Nations Cup 2021. We've watched the Rookies Championship this afternoon with excitement, and now it's time for the pros. I hope you're as keen and as ready as I am. Wherever you are in the world right now, I can tell you where I am. I am at the Kesselhaus, and if you've watched the Rookies, you already know some facts about it, but I'm gonna tell you anyway, because this location is just the icing on the cake. It's more than 100 years old. It was designed by Theodor Fischer and Otto Ernst Schweitzer. It's 970 square meters big, yes, and 1,300 people usually fit in here. Some things are still in its original condition, like the boiler plant right next to me, and it's been used for a very long time by the Krupp company. Then it was unused for 10 years, and now we are back as an event venue since 2007. So it was built to be a powerhouse, and we're bringing back the energy today because our athletes, they're powerhouses as well. And I can literally feel the electricity in the air here. I think they're ready. They're warmed up. We're ready as well. So I'll give it back to you, and we'll see each other for the first interview.
Well, that definitely is an awesome place. And Troy and me have been discussing a lot about the architecture of that place. But we'll be discussing even more the athletes that are competing today. And I think it's time to meet them, right?
Yeah, speaking of architecture, these are the guys that are going to build the excitement up for today's competition. We're going to meet those guys right now, starting with Michael Delpine from Italy. You can see his stats right there. Second place at the Italian Championship in 2020. He's ready to go today. All right, next there is Gunther Dahlinger. Gunther Dahlinger from Austria, fourth place at the Austrian Championships in 2019, and definitely ready to go.
Big
boy.
Yeah.
Huh? David Bierer from Switzerland. I should mention that we have two athletes from each country representing here. So there are two opportunities for the countries to gain points and do well. Up next, we have Severin Bühler. Bueller. Not a lot of people will get that reference, but third place at the Swiss Championships this year. So also getting ready to go. Coming up next, we should have Andrea Rossi from Italy. I will see him in heat number 3 today. He is one of the most fit men from the Italian crew, and being one of the older guys out there, you know, it says a lot about his fitness. He's just fantastic to watch. Then we have Christian Kaczmarek from Poland. And the Polish champion 2012 and 2013, he's been out of the limelight for a little while, but we'll see him back there for sure. He's one of the stronger guys in the field today. Then we have Lars Seibert from Germany. And then second place, German Championship 2019. He's a big, strong man. Let's see if he can bring that to bear here today in our different disciplines. Then Koen Martens, the legend from Belgium. Absolutely a living legend, 4-time Belgian champion. You don't need to say more than that. He's got a ton of international experience. Then we have Redma Nol from the Netherlands. Another guy who's pretty strong. He got second place at the Benelux Championship 2021, which you probably saw. We broadcasted that one. That was a lot of fun to do that one. Then we have Guillaume Moore. Now, I've been murdering his name for about 3 weeks now, but I think I finally got it right. Silver medalist at the French Championship in 2020 and 2021. Pretty consistent performer. Could this be the day for him to really step it up in the Nations Cup? And then Michael Dubicki, an absolute beast, 3-time Polish champion. And I mean, you got to keep an eye on this guy. He is all power.
It feels like he's looking me straight in the eye right now.
Yeah, and you don't want to be meeting him in a dark alley when he's angry with you. Then we have another legend in the scene. We'll be seeing him going up against Dubicki in heat number 6 in our first round. Armin Kugler from Austria, 6-time Austrian champion, first place Austrian Pro qualifier 2021. So he is definitely a guy that's going to be in the mix. Then we have Danny Martin.
Oh, yeah.
His saw was in here a while back. We tried to lift that thing. It's a beast, and he is a beast as well. German champion 2019 and 2020. And then the last 3 guys in our list of 16 is Emil Hansson. Boy, I mean, second place Swedish Pro Qualifier 21, third place Rookie World Championship 2019. He's jumping from the rookies into the pros in the last couple of years. Good job by him. Pierre Puy-Barret, the French champion. I mean, you got to love this guy. He's a newly crowned father and a newly crowned French champion. 6 times French champion, no less. So another one of those contenders for the top spot. And then the young man, Ferry Swan. If you look at his stats there, he doesn't come across as a big guy, but he's the Swedish champion 2019. He qualified first for the pro qualifier in 2021.
He's a machine.
He is a machine. Absolutely a machine. So fantastic lineup of athletes today in the pro class. I'm really looking forward to this one.
Could not be much better than this. And of course, the magic number is 2 and 2. We had 2 rookies and 2 pros from each country, and they will fight together for the Nations Cup. We'll tell you all about the format in just a minute, but of course, we want to show you some pictures from the rookies this morning, and everything is coming up in just a moment for your entertainment, so stay tuned.
The STIHL Timbersports individual competition. In the first round, all athletes compete in 3 disciplines: the underhand chop, the stock saw, and the standing block chop. The times achieved will be converted into points upon completion of each discipline. In round 1, a difference of 1 point applies in each discipline, thus the fastest athlete received 12 points and the slowest only 1 point. Any rule infraction will result in a disqualification, and the athlete will receive 0 points for that discipline. At the end of the first round, the athletes with the lowest scores are eliminated. Only 8 athletes make it to the second round. In this second round, the remaining athletes compete in the single buck and the springboard for increased scores. With 2 points difference between placings, the fastest athlete now receives 16 points and the slowest receives 2. The 2 athletes with the lowest total points are eliminated at the end of round 2. Only the top 6 reach the third round. In the third round, anything is still possible in the hot saw, as an increased score interval of 3 points applies in this final round. The fastest athlete can score up to 18 points at the hot saw, the slowest only 3 points. The athlete who manages to achieve the highest total score across all 3 rounds is the new champion.
So here we have the results so far. That's what the rookies achieved, and Poland, very impressive up there on the top.
Super impressive. Really 2 strong athletes with 2 brothers in the Polish mix there for the rookies, and knowing that they've got Michał Dubicki coming up in the pro level. Yeah, I mean, Poland is in good stead right now, but let's not count out any of these other teams, because as I read you that list earlier on from the athletes, that is a who's who of timber sports in this timber sports family. So things could change drastically, and it really is about gaining as high a position as possible to try and get as many points as possible, because those points are going to be divided by 2. But before we get into that business and all that math, we're going to take a look at some of the rookie highlights from earlier on today. And there were some highlights. But where we really saw the action start to ramp up were the cutting and chopping disciplines with the single buck and the underhand and standing block chop. But we did see a lot of action with these rookies. Now, when it got super interesting was the standing block chop, because normally the standing block chop is discipline number 3, and it was discipline number 2 on today's action. And we saw a few personal bests drop there for the rookies. And what was really
very nice, he called it a few personal bests.
A few personal bests.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, I mean, these guys were really going for it. There you see, I believe that is... no, it went away too fast, sorry. But anyway, I mean, these guys were really going for it. And you even mentioned during one of these standing block chops that it looked like a baseball being hit away. And I think that was actually that moment. And that is the 16-year-old from Poland who is absolutely rocking and rolling. Now watch this here. This single buck is a beast. They call it the misery whip for a reason. Watch this kid on the right-hand side here.
This might be a record. Let's talk about a world record, Troy. Isn't that amazing?
That's what we did see here. And, I mean, I don't even think he realized what happened there. But we do have a world record coming up. And, I mean, it's such a tough discipline, this one here. And you can see, you know, these guys are working this massively long 2-meter saw to try and get through as quickly as possible. And there's some jubilation on both sides. And I think we saw every single athlete in the single buck break a personal best. And then, of course, we have the underhand chop here. One of those disciplines that can be really devastating if you cut over that line on the foothold, which we did see. Now, we only had, I believe, 2, maximum 3 disqualifications in the rookie competition.
Yep.
You know, it's because of small things. One of the disqualifications was over the time. Another disqualification was a cut out of the cookie on, I believe we had it on the single buck, actually. Don't remember that. And the other disqualification was a cut foothold on the underhand chop. So, you know, a lot of stuff went on. The last couple of weeks, we've seen a lot of events without any disqualifications whatsoever, save maybe 1. And this one, we had 3 disqualifications. So it does happen. But the action was hot and heavy from the very get-go with these rookies. And what that tells me is the future of STIHL Timbersports is absolutely safe and secure, because we have some massive talent coming through the rookie ranks.
Well, if you ask me, the future is rocketing away with these youngsters. Absolutely fantastic. And we've just seen the underhand chop. Well, the pros are ready to rock and roll in Kesselhaus. So all you need to know about the underhand chop tool and discipline, well, that's coming up right now.
The axes used in timber sports definitely can't be bought at your local hardware store. Made from special steel, the blade is hand-sanded with an angle of 13 to 16 degrees. It's custom-built and carefully adjusted for each competition. The weight is around 3 kilos, and it's about 80 centimeters long. The blade is so sharp that you could shave with it. Underhand chop. In the past, the underhand chop technique was used to split logs. Standing on a horizontally anchored block, the athletes cut through a 32-centimeter log. The block has to be worked from both sides.
Well, let's take a look at the starting order. In the first heat, we'll see Italy versus Austria. Michael Delpin against Günther Dallinger. Then it's a really Swiss duel zwischen David Bierer and Severin Bühler. Italy against Poland, Andrea Rossi versus Christian Kaczmarek. Then it's Germany versus Belgium, Lars Seibert against Koen Martens. That's going to be a nice one. In Heat 5, Redmer Knoll from the Netherlands against the Frenchman Guillaume Moore. Then we got Michael Debicki from Poland against Armin Kugler from Austria. Heat 7, Danny Martin, the German legend, against the Swedish man Emil Hansen. And then heat number 8, Pierre Puberet from France taking on Ferry Svan from Sweden.
Yeah, but our first heat up in the blocks right now, Michael Delpine against Günther Dahlinger. Delpine has shown himself as being a super strong competitor in this discipline. Let's see how he does against the Austrian Günther Dahlinger.
Go!
So if you've watched the show earlier on, you're going to hear me talk about a lot of the same things, and what that is the accuracy and the power that these guys are putting into their hits here. Each drive needs to have enough power to slab out some of the material and make sure that they get through that side and can move over to the other side. Now, Michael Delpine has already moved to the other side of his block. As I said, he's really strong in this discipline. We've seen his ability here, and Günther Dahlinger has just moved over to the other side. He's many strokes behind Michael Delpine, and Michael Delpine gets through at a 31.50. That's a personal best, and yeah, like I said in the earlier shows for our rookies, it's always good to see a personal best, even if the time is not as fast as, say, your compatriot on stage there. So both of these guys, Michael Delpine and Günther Dahlinger, getting personal bests here. Now, the times that I call out are absolutely unofficial until our judge gives the thumbs up that everything is okay on stage.
Okay, both cuts are good.
So that makes it official right there. Michael Delpine in top spot at the moment after heat number 1 with a time of 31.26, a personal best, and Günther Dahlinger with a time of 39.74, also a personal best. And you can see back here on the first side, Michael Delpine was actually quite quick through the first side there as he moved over to the other side, a good 5 or 6 strokes ahead of Günther Dahlinger, and hopefully get to see that. Yep, there we go. He switched around really quickly and made short work of the backside of his block. Now, at the top of the show, you saw the world record was something ridiculously low, I think around 17, 18 seconds maybe. Can't remember it off the top of my head, but I'll tell you what, these guys are doing a great job, and that just goes to show you that because their times are quite close to each other, that wood is really fairly matched up. So, we're moving on to heat number 2. Between the two Swiss men, David Bierer and Severin Bühler. You can see the personal best between these two guys are a little bit different, 26 to 31. So the advantage, I would say, goes to David Bierer with a quicker personal best time here. But that doesn't always mean he is going to have the fastest time when it comes down to actually getting the adrenaline flowing and really hammering away on that log. So we're going to keep a close eye on these two guys. Now remember, this is the Nations Cup, so it's about trying to get your nation up as high as possible. So pushing each other in this case is going to be a real benefit.
3, 2, 1. Go!
Yeah, like Swiss timing between these two guys to start off their first few hits. Really nicely slabbing out there. That's Bierer at the close end, and the far side there is Bühler. Pretty evenly matched up so far. Bierer, the first to move over to the other side. Bühler, 1 stroke behind him as he moves over. And it looks like we're getting pretty close here. Who's going to split that log first as they get slabbing out really nicely? Bühler doing a great job on the second side of his. Oh, my goodness. Very close between the two of them. 32.03 to 32.77. So very, very close. Only 1.51 seconds between the two of them. And it looks like everything's going to be thumbs up for this particular heat.
Okay, both cuts are good.
Yeah, that's what I love to hear.
Yeah.
Both cuts
are good. Now, these two guys, Bierer and Bühler, both battled really well against each other, really evenly matched up between the two. And what that says here in the standings is they're sitting in places 2 and 3 after that heat. So they've actually shoved Günther Dahlinger down into 4th place, and they're right next to each other in those 2 positions, 2nd and 3rd. So good way to start the competition off for Switzerland, who is sitting in second place in the overall standings after
let's not forget that,
the rookies, because they have a couple of real strong rookies there who have been showing off some great skills. And here you can see, I mean, their strokes are really similar to each other. And look at that. It was just, I wouldn't even say it's a full stroke difference. It's 1/2 stroke maybe between the two of them. And that is the difference of 1.07 seconds. That's how close this is between these guys.
Unreal.
All right, next heat in the blocks. Andrea Rossi against Christian Kaczmarek. So we've got an Italian going up against a Polish man. Christian Kaczmarek, he's a big boy. 191 centimeters, but Rossi, he's no slouch either for size, 195, but Rossi is very, very fit. Now this is something that I talked about a lot earlier on. We talk a lot about it as well, Marcus. The fitness level of these guys has to be off the charts, you know, because you can't just come out there and flex your muscles and hammer at the block, because you're going to be dead after the first discipline and you got nothing left for the rest. So they have to really manage their power output through this competition.
Ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Kaczmarek in red on the right, Rossi in blue on the left, and you can see both of them moving that axe pretty quickly. Rossi got stuck just a little bit, but so did Kaczmarek. Let's see who's going to shift over to the other side. First, it's Rossi, but Kaczmarek is right there with them. Oh, Rossi steps down. That's going to cost him a stroke, probably. Let's see if Rossi can get through there quickly. Kaczmarek is a big, strong body, and he can really throw that axe. And it's Kaczmarek through at 25.11. And Rossi, surprisingly, was well behind by 3-4 strokes with a 29.94. I absolutely thought Rossi was going to get there first, but maybe that step down caused a little bit of, I don't know, anxiety, a miss in his timing. Anything can happen, and it's a lot of headspace going on up there too. So a step off that log can play games with your mind.
Okay, both cuts are good.
All right, official time now locked in. Andrea Rossi with a 29.79 is moved into second place, just ahead of Michael Delpine and Christian Kaczmarek with the fastest time so far after that heat with a 24.86. Moves to the top of the underhand chop rankings, and we can see here it was a really good battle between these two, and I have a feeling that little step down by Rossi might have been the difference maker, because it seemed to me like, yep, there's the step down. Then he had to reset himself and start swinging in. And yeah, it just seemed like maybe that was where he kind of lost the rhythm that should have been there throughout the entire heat. And Kaczmarek managed to just maintain his flow and cut the block first. And it was a good 3. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. It was good 5 strokes before he got through there. So yeah, 5 strokes behind that final drive was good, but Rossi seems to be okay with it. That's competition. That's the way it goes. All right. Next up from Germany, Lars Seibert going up against Belgium's Koen Martens.
Ooh, that's one I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, and I mean, these two guys couldn't be built any more differently. Lars Seibert, he's a big boy. He's got tons of power, really strong. This is a discipline where he's exceptionally good in. Koen Martens, he's a slender guy. You look at him and you think, yeah, maybe timber sports, I don't know, could be a tennis player. But he is power deep down in his bones.
Stand
it's crazy.
to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Okay, you can see Koen Martens working that axe quickly. Lars Seibert on the opposite end is going for those big haymaker strokes from way on high. But Koen Martens got his axe caught in. However, he's the first guy to move over to the other side, and he keeps that flow going. So Koen Martens, with a ton of experience, looking very good going up against the powerful Lars Seibert. Will he get through first? He will, with a personal best of 23.86. And there you go. That hidden power by Koen Martens gets him through with a great time, and Lars Seibert with a 29.27. Both good scores. And that puts Lars Seibert in third place, and Koen Martens takes over the top of the underhand chop. And we've already seen a lot of shifting in the rankings here in this discipline so far, and this is the way this day is going to go.
Okay,
I just can't see it now.
Are good.
This is going to be one hell of a night. Unbelievable. And Koen Martens always manages to surprise me.
Yeah.
He's always good for a surprise.
Always good. I mean, there are those guys that have that bulky kind of power. You could see it. You just look at them and you know, oh, that guy's got some strength, you know? And you look at Koen Martens, and like I said, he could be a tennis player. He's slight, he's agile, but he's got a core strength that you just don't really, you underestimate it so much. And he showed us right here why. You know, he is so good, but he moves that axe accurately with good power, and he can really work it. And, you know, it showed here as he's got the fastest time so far with a 23.61, a personal best, and the time to beat thus far in the competition. So good job by the Belgian legend, we should say, as he's got himself a real good start to this day.
Absolutely. And now we're going to see the Netherlands take on La France. Oh yeah, that's another really nice one. I think their personal bests are probably very close together. So that's, yeah, the one we're looking for now. But here's the score so far. Just like you mentioned, Koen Martens up on top just before Christian Kaczmarek and Lars Seibert. That's the top three at the moment. But of course, 8 more athletes to come, 4 more heats. Anything and everything is possible.
And we have 2 other personal bests with Michael Delpin and Gunther Dahlinger. So, you know, it's always nice, like we say a lot, to see these personal bests happen because it means that there is development through these guys in this sport. And every time they make a step like that, it just says, okay, they're looking for the next little advantage, the next way to get their sport better. So, Redmer Noll up next, going up against Guillaume Mor. Now, these two guys, I would say, in basis of their level, I'm going to say they're really evenly matched. We should see a quick but even battle here between these two.
3, 2, 1, go!
Guillaume Mor was second place at the French Championship recently. Looking for him to really try and put his stamp on the sport as he comes along. He moves over to the other side quite quickly, 2.5 strokes ahead of Redmer Noll. Redmer Noll coming hard from the backside though with that axe, trying to get through, and Mor gets stuck again, so that gives a chance for Noll to catch up with him, and like I said, it could be close, and it's Noll breaking through it at 27.77, Guillaume Mor with a 29.62. I'm going to say comeback for Redmer Noll with a really, really nice job. He kept the flow going, he kept the axe moving. A couple of sticks there for Guillaume Mor, and I think that was the difference maker right there, because the difference between the two is hardly anything, 29.25 to 28.60. So real nice battle between those two, and like I said, pretty evenly matched up.
And there's the next personal best.
Yeah, another one. I didn't even see that. Redmer Noll got a personal best with a 28.60 after adjustment. So great job by these two guys as we take a look back. I mean, they started well, and it was actually Guillaume Mor who had some really nice big slabs off that first side, but then he got that axe caught in there a couple of times, and that is the difference between throwing with as much power as you can and throwing with a bit more technique than power to try and get as much out of the block as you can and as much out of the axe as you can while you're swinging. And it was a great job, and you could see here, there's Noll in the backside, literally one complete stroke ahead of Guillaume Mor on that heat. So really good job by these two guys, and a nice battle. And you can see those lines on that block. That's going to help these guys guide their strikes on the block, and their footholds where they're standing is also a very important aspect to keep an eye on through the competition. All right, Michael Dubicki and Armin Kugler. These guys have had plenty of battles in the past. Michael Dubicki has been on a tear lately, and he has a personal best that is about 1 and a bit seconds faster than Armin Kugler. So let's see if Michael Dubicki can keep that flow going. He is riding on a confidence high at the moment.
To your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Yeah, Dubicki just going for it on the left-hand side of your screen. Look how fast he's working that axe. Unbelievable. Over to the other side in under 10 seconds. He is rocking and rolling. Armin Kugler has moved over as well, but it looks like it might be Dubicki through it. Oh, my goodness. 14.36 seconds. We have a new personal best for Dubicki, and Kugler finally getting through in 24:20. He's not going to be happy with that. But Dubicki, holy smokes, folks. Did you see how fast that axe was moving, Marcus?
I was blinking for a second and I missed it. This is unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
This is not only personal best, but this is a cracking time, 14.19.
A cracking time.
Wow.
What a great way to put it down. So he's got himself a personal best as well as a seasonal best, and both cuts are good. So it's official.
Wow.
Wow. 14.19 seconds is the time for Mikael Dubicki there. Armin Kugler, believe it or not, with his 23.85 being that much slower than Mikael Dubicki, is still sitting in third place. So Austria and Poland are in good stead at the moment. Now remember, it's about getting as many points and good positions as possible, and then we'll try and explain this whole scoring system to you as time goes by.
Oh my word, that really is impressive. And that actually is a European record. Wow.
Yeah, Marcus, I mean, unbelievable. He's been going from strength to strength this season. It started last season with our virtual competitions. We saw that he was ready, he was fit, he was strong, and not only on top of that power that he has, he is such an accurate and technical hitter. So, you know, we've got a seasonal best, we've got a European record, we've got a personal best in 14.19.
We've only seen 6 heats.
I mean,
where's this going? That's crazy.
It's just getting better and better. So Mikael Dubicki, everybody's looking at him and keeping a close eye on that guy.
40 is U30.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, unbelievable. So Danny Martin and Emil Hansen coming up next. Danny Martin, one of the best choppers and sawyers in Germany, if not the best at the moment. And we'll be looking forward to seeing him do some damage to that block. Emil Hansson, on the other hand, well, I mean, he's not too shabby. Coming out of the rookie ranks, jumping into the pro ranks, and in the mix right away. Good job.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Good start by both of these guys. Now here's the difference. Danny Martin going for some big power hits. Emil Hansen, he's not as big or as strong as Danny Martin, but he's moving that axe quickly. Martin, however, was over to the other side of his block before Emil Hansen was, so whether or not his big power hits are going to get him through, it does do it. So it's going to be Danny Martin in 20.56. Emil Hansen, like I said, doesn't have the power, but he had the axe speed going, and that fitness is there, and he's at a 25.29. So with Emil Hansen's time, he'll slip into 6th place in the standing of underhand chop, and Danny Martin moves on up to 2nd place in underhand chop and a personal best. It just reminds, moving on up to the sky, we finally got a piece of the pie. I mean, just a great run by Danny Martin, and that shows you how motivated he is to do well.
All right, both cuts are good.
Oh yeah, and it means that's a personal best number 6 in the first discipline after 7 heats.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
They've chosen some good wood today. Congratulations to Danny Martin, though, for a fantastic battle right there against the young Emil Hansen. 25.06 seconds official for Emil Hansen, now sitting in 6th place, and 20.36 for Danny Martin. And you can see
he's
Danny
killing
Martin,
that log. He's killing it.
Absolutely. And he was actually over onto the other side of his block faster than Emil Hansen. So that power from Danny Martin was the telltale right there. And, you know, power isn't anything without control, as they say, and he definitely had control of that axe. So the angle and his accuracy was the difference maker there, because Emil Hansen, definitely a good hitter, and he had faster strokes at the start, but just didn't have the power to keep up with Danny Martin in this case.
This man could knock down a house with those strokes. Are you kidding me? That is
as long as your house is German made.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah.
Who's excited there?
Yeah, he's having a great time.
If he was a Californian, he'd say, I'm stoked, dude. All right. I'm really looking forward to this heat. Pierre Puy-Barré, he is a big man. 1.90 m, 110 kilograms. Ferry Swan, a minuscule 1.78 m at 86 kilograms. But Ferry Swan, much like Koen Martens, has this hidden power. It's unbelievable. And I guarantee you that Ferry Swan is going to be using that fast axe technique that we see so many of these athletes using these days. That said, Pierre Puy-Barré has been on that tip as well lately. So Pierre Puy-Barré going from strength to strength as well, just winning the French championship and celebrating with his newly born daughter. So he's got some motivation behind this as well.
3, 2, 1, go!
So as expected, Ferry Swan going for it with quick hits, and he has got plenty of power. Let's see who can go over to the other side first. Well, these guys are really going for it. It's going to be Puy-Barré moving over just a half stroke ahead of Ferry Swan. It's going to be a close one between these two guys. And let's see if Ferry Swan can actually do it. Oh, a big stick by Ferry Swan. That could cost him. Puy-Barré does it in 24:39 and Ferry Swan in 25:42. So not their fastest times, but solid enough to get them into the middle of the pack here. So Ferry Swan with a 25:42 unofficial, sitting in 8th place. And Pierre Puy-Barré slips with a 24:39 all the way up to 5th. And that is the underhand chop done
All
and
right, both
dusted.
cuts are good.
Wow. So much excitement in the first discipline. I'm really sweaty now, but this is only the first.
Yeah, that could be the lighting in our studio. Yeah, unbelievable. That was a great heat. I really enjoyed watching that one. And, I mean, Ferry Swan, he did get his axe caught. So I think that the excitement of turning around onto the other side and knowing that he had a big man in Pierre Puy-Barré battling right next to him, he probably put a little bit too much effort into one of those hits and just got that axe stuck in there. And meanwhile, Pierre Puy-Barré, he has had a ton of international experience. He's been on these stages so many times. Ferry Swan, he was the rookie champion and came out of the rookie class just like Emil Hansen directly into the pro class and absolutely made a name for himself. And he is such a fit dude as well. So that was as close as it gets with an axe stick that Ferry Swan had there. You can see how accurate those hits are. I mean, that is as smooth as it gets. That is picture perfect. If you're going to get into a textbook about how you hit a log and how do you aim an axe, that's the picture right there. And there's a man all business on stage, but when you hear about the antics that he gets up to behind stage and joking with all the other guys, a funny dude altogether. So that was our tool right there for the underhand chop. And there you see the scores so far for the underhand chop discipline.
And of course, Ferry Swan just worked the wood. Let's find out how happy he is or not. Pia, over to you in the Kessel House.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm having right next to me Ferry Swan, as you just mentioned. Ferry, you're one of the younger guys here, right? How did you feel going up against Pierre Puy-Barré, who was just 2nd place last weekend at the European Trophy? So he's quite good. How did you feel going up against him?
I focus just to do my best. I don't really care who is beside me, but I'm not happy with that cut. I can do better.
I'm sure. And which discipline do you like the most? Which is your favorite?
Most of them, so.
All of them? You don't have a favorite one?
No, not really now. Not anymore.
Okay, and how do you prepare for the next one, for stock saw?
Just focus and get the chainsaw pants on and focus.
I'm sure you can do it. So I wish you luck. Thank you for the interview. Thank you. And I'll hand it back to you to the studio.
Well, it looks like Ferry is not that happy, is he? Especially as he's not fighting for himself, but for his nation, for Sweden. Let's take a look at what the nation ranking looks like now, because, of course, like you mentioned before, Troy, we've already had the points from the rookies, and this is the first discipline of the pros that goes with that ranking, and no change up on the top.
No,
Poland's
but
still
look what's
leading.
happened to Switzerland.
Oh,
They've
yeah,
dropped down to
2 and
5th place,
3.
and Germany has moved up a couple of spots into 2nd, with France and Belgium back.
This is how fast it can go.
So that's how quickly these changes can happen. That's why it's so exciting and so interesting. So I mean, you know, just a small thing that happens on the stage, like we saw earlier on,
And boom.
change of nation.
Off we go to the next discipline, stock saw. All you need to know about this discipline, take a look at this.
The STIHL MS661CM stock saw is used in STIHL Timbersports as the ultimate test of operator skill. Designed for the toughest jobs in forestry, it produces approximately 7.3 horsepower, has a displacement of 91.1 cc, and weighs 7.4 kilograms. To ensure evenly and fairly matched saws, professional STIHL technicians prepare and test the saws before each competition. Stock saw. After the starting shot, the contestants have to cut 2 wooden discs, so-called cookies, within a 10-centimeter mark, one downward and one upward. The attempt is only valid when both discs have been cut off completely and within the marks.
Time for cookies. Let's take a look at the heats. Heat 1, Michael Delpin against Koen Martens. Then Andrea Rossi against David Birra. Red McNoll against Severin Bühler. Armin Kugler taking on Pierre Puberet. Christian Kaczmarek against Guillaume Moore. Günther Dallinger against Mikhail Dubitsky. Then we have Ferry Swan take on Danny Martin. And last but not least, Lars Seibert against Emil Hansen.
So the world record 9.14. Keep a close eye on that time. Maybe today we'll have some motivated sawyers here with the stock saw and get a new world record. Anything can happen, and I wouldn't put it past these guys, but our first heat between Michael Delpin and Koen Martens should be a good one. Koen Martens is really solid in this discipline, and we saw that Michael Delpin is okay, also not bad, but struggled in previous contests with the stock saw because it can be finicky if you don't get that second cut nice and clean. Here we go.
Your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Great start by Koen Martens on the right-hand side of your screen in the red jersey. Michael Delpin on the left, pushing hard to try and get that first cut done, and he is looking good on the upstroke, and it's going to be Delpin in 12.62 and Koen Martens in 13.83. Now, Koen Martens got a quicker start than Michael Delpin, but Michael Delpin had absolutely the perfect amount of pressure, barely any bottom swing as he changed to the upstroke, and he had a really nice thin cookie on the upstroke.
Are good.
And we have 2 complete cookies for each stand on the deck. That means everything is fair, and we have our first scores locked and loaded. Michael Delpin with a 12.55 adjusted and a 13.62 for Koen Martens. So let's take a look at this again. Now watch on the far side there when this heat starts. Koen Martens is actually very quick up on the placement of the saw for the first cut. See, he was well ahead of Delpin, but you can see Delpin just seemed to have exactly the right technique. Now, there is Delpin's upstroke. Look how thin that cookie is. Thin to win is the word of the day, and that is a winning upstroke right there with Delpin having a really, really nice thin cookie on the way up, and that made that upstroke cut a lot easier because there's not as much material to push out of the way compared to the upstroke cookie of Koen Martens. All right, next up, Andrea Rossi up against David Birra from Switzerland. Now, we know Andrea Rossi is pretty solid in this discipline, but looking at the personal best from David Birra, it's a little bit better than Andrea Rossi's. But as we say, anything can and will happen, and if Murphy's Law is not on your side, you might be struggling to get a third cookie cut if you cut out or something. So that's another thing to keep an eye on here. Those cookies need to be complete. And if you cut out or cut over the line, then you are looking down the barrel of a DQ.
Warm up your saw.
So saws are running. They'll be placed in the specially designed pads to keep them from hopping away from the athletes. And then it will be about placing the hands correctly on the log and waiting for the go. Here we go.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, really nice even start for both of these guys, Rossi and Bira. Two different styles of cutting. Rossi angling that saw heavily. Bira on the upstroke, similar style to Rossi. And it's going to be Rossi with a 1243 and Bira with a 1387. And we got thumbs up for the cookies on Rossi's side. Waiting for the thumbs up from the cookies on Bira's side. It looks like it's good to go, so wait for our judge.
Okay, both cuts are good.
There you go. Times are now locked in as official. Andrea Rossi with a 1243 moves to the top of the ranking, just ahead of Michael Delpine. So that's two Italians ahead so far in stock saw. Koen Martin sitting in third, and unfortunately for the Swiss man David Bierer, he is sitting down there in fourth place. But there's still lots of action to come in round one. We have the stock saw remaining plus standing block chop before we get rid of a few athletes and move on to round two. And looking at these cuts here, it was, pretty evenly matched up. Good battle between the two. No surprises. All right, heat number 3, Redma Noll up against Severin Bühler. Two guys that are completely different in their stature, but again, power and height and all of these things don't really play much of a role in stock saw. It's about your technique with the saw. Too much pressure, that chain stalls, and then you're in a bit of trouble.
Warm up.
Too little pressure, and you're not cutting quickly.
Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
So Redma Noll in orange on the left-hand side. Severin Bühler on the right-hand side. Bühler's got a good first cut, but Noll is right close to him. Oh, that's coming really close to a cutout for Bühler, but it's looking good. He might have a complete cookie there, but man, how thin was that disc? 12.25 compared to a 12.36, and both of these guys with really nice times move to the top of the stock saw results. Severin Bühler right on top. And hopefully that second cookie from him was complete, as the judges are taking a really close look at it there. Oh, he got thick at the bottom and got really thin at the top. So that is a big question mark, Marcus.
Oh, wow. That's one of the strangest cookies I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, that
looks like a slice of cake.
Yeah, it's a risk. It's a risk when you come up. You know, you want to make sure you get a good angle on it, but they want to make sure also that those cookies are complete. So the cookie needs to have at least a couple of millimeters at the top or the bottom of the cut in order to be fair, and they are going to check this very, very closely.
We can see the red light, so there's a video check coming up.
Yeah. Yeah,
to me it looks like a complete cookie.
Yeah, but it's tough. It's a tough call. So they're going to check it, you know, compared to the line. And what I think what happened there is the angle of his saw was pointed outwards. So he had like a bit of a left-hand cut, and that means the tip of the saw was closer to the edge of the cookie. So they're going to look in the competition control. They'll do a video review, and the tension will mount on stage for Severin Bühler because his cookie is under review, which would be a disappointing situation for him in a DQ because he did have the fastest time so far.
My word.
So here's what they're checking now.
CCC is checking. I don't want to be in his skin now.
He's sweating bullets on stage. You know it, especially after having such a good score and considering that Switzerland dropped down to 5th place in the overall standings in the Nations Cup.
The points,
so they need these points. They need this to not be a DQ and
he would be
get him up there.
on top of the list right now with that.
He would be on top of the list right now in a really solid time.
That's a close call, obviously. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, they're discussing it ad nauseum.
Still the red lights up there on stage. Let's wait for it. Is that your heartbeat that I'm hearing? Or
All right, no discussion, but both cuts are good.
Woo! That's a breath of fresh air and a reliever for Severin Bühler from Switzerland. As we'll take a look back here, and maybe we can actually, because that camera angle right there would be absolutely perfect to see that cut. So let's take a look. Both of these guys started off really, really well. And that's a nice first cut for Severin Bühler. Nice and thin, but it was the upcut that was the big sell here. He got really close to the edge with the tip of his saw, but the motor part of his saw was deeper into the log. And that was the thing. You could see it right there as where that angle comes from. And that cookie drop, you could use that as a bike ramp. That was such a heavy angle. But he had a full cookie, and that's all that counts. So in this case, his now, and I'm just looking at my timing screen here, his time has been readjusted, so he's got a dead even 12 seconds for that cut with the fair cookie after review. And that means Severin Bühler will sit atop the stock saw standings in first place for the moment.
Oh, and two fast cutters coming up now.
So there you see Severin Bühler on top, Red Manol right behind him in second place, Andrea Rossi and Michael Delpin, the two Italians, in third and fourth, Koen Martens fifth, and David Bierre in sixth.
Wow, and everybody really close together.
Yeah, very. I mean, there's only a second and change between top spot and sixth place at the moment.
And wait for Armin Kugler and Pierre Puberet. They both love to do the karting with the stock saw. So.
They do, yeah. They're both really strong in this discipline.
Look at the personal bests.
Yeah, 1096 to 1020. Yeah, those are real close. They're side-by-side pictures, you know. Makes me think of a line from a movie. Why so serious? You know? But it's just fantastic. These huge guys standing there, growling at the camera. Two of the nicest dudes you can ever meet when you're standing with them in the backstage area. But it's all about the competition and being on top of their game when they're out there on stage.
Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Ooh, slow start by Kugler. Pierre Puybarret, however, he was quick to get there. He's got that first cookie down, and he has adjusted quickly to getting that upstroke. Puybarret well in the lead for this one. He's got it in 12:15. Armin Kugler, I don't know what happened at the start of his cut. He really took his time to get up there and aim that saw on the first stroke.
It didn't look too bad while he was cutting, but like you said, it really, really slow start.
Okay, both cuts are good.
All right, so maybe there's some strategy in Armin Kugler's cut procedure here. I don't know, but at the moment, he's in sixth place, pushing Koen Martens and David Bierre down. Pierre Puybarret, however, with the fastest cut so far, moves into the top of the stock saw rankings with an 11.92. And you can see all these practice moves, all of that, getting the saw up there and really being in position right on point made the difference here. I don't know. Normally, Armin Kugler is a lot faster on that initial cut, and the upstroke changeover for Puybarret was so good. Yeah, don't know. I mean, Armin Kugler's cuts were nice and steady and fast as usual, like you said, Marcus, but his start was just really slow. Maybe he got surprised by the go. Maybe they need to go back to the starter pistol, and that's going to get in there a little bit faster. Who knows? Scare him into starting that saw.
Maybe we're standing next to really loud chainsaws.
Could be, yeah.
So we can see Kugler in third position still, then Koen Martens in silver medal position at the moment. And of course in the lead, Pierre Puybarret, and that is the man we want to talk to right now. And hopefully Pierre is standing next to Pierre at this very moment. Let's go to the Kesselhaus.
Yes, you're right. I'm standing right next to him. Pierre Puybarret, tu es dans la première position en ce moment. Et sans aucun doute, tu n'es pas nouveau en ce sport. Qu'est-ce que ton opinion professionnelle au sujet de la série dernière?
Pour la stock saw, en fait, j'ai essayé d'assurer. Donc, moi, j'essaye maintenant d'essayer de faire 2 rondelles. Ça s'est bien passé. J'ai la première place, mais bon, rien n'est joué encore.
So he said, I asked what his professional opinion is about the last heat, and he just said that he's pretty happy because he's in the first place and he did his job and he's happy with that. So, qu'est-ce que ta stratégie pour le série suivante, la série prochaine?
Il n'y a pas trop de stratégie, on va essayer de faire au mieux, faire un bon standing et puis garder ma position.
Merci pour votre temps. Et merci. So I asked what's his plan for the next heat, and he just said he doesn't have a plan. He just keeps giving his best, and he will do, I'm sure. So back to the studio.
That's so typical Pierre Puyberret, isn't it? I love
Man
it.
of many words, huh? As my mom always says.
And there's a next French athlete coming up in heat number 5. That's going to be another very fine one.
Yeah, Christian Kaczmarek against Guillaume Moore. Again, you know, two guys in stature that are completely opposite to each other, but like we always say with this one, it's not about your power, it's about your technique. And because the saw does 90% of the work here, it's about really aiming, targeting, and applying the right amount of pressure and not overdoing your moves too much. But you're going to see different types of techniques as well. And you see some guys have the saw motor even with the blade itself as they push the whole unit down through the block. Other guys you're going to see, they'll place the saw motor high and they'll just angle the saw blade down through and back up. So different techniques have different effects.
3, 2, 1, go!
So here we have two very similar styles that it's pushing the whole motor and blade attachment all the way down through. And Guillaume Moore, who's looking very good at the moment, probably has this one locked down at 12:37. And Christian Kaczmarek in 13:37, 1 full second behind. Solid competition there. Guillaume Moore moves into 4th place in stock saw results with that 12:37. Excuse me, they've just adjusted his time to 12:04, so he jumps up to 3rd position. That's very good news for the French team.
Are good.
Christian Kaczmarek with a 13:27 after adjustment is down in 7th place at the moment. It'll be interesting to see after the stock saw how this affects the overall rankings in the Nations Cup. That's going to be a fun one to look at because there could be some shifting again. Poland looking really strong, but France is coming on strong here in stock saw and so far have positions 1 and 3 locked in with some good times. So now we have 3 more heats to go with some pretty good sawyers in there, including Michael Dubicki, Danny Martin, who is a master with motor saws, as well as Ferry Svan. And there you see a really nice thin cookie. That was a good one right there. All right, heat number 6 coming up with Gunther Dahlinger and Michael Dubicki. And as we mentioned earlier, Marcus, Michael Dubicki is going from strength to strength. He is absolutely running on, I don't know, confidence. What's another word we could use for that? He is just feeling the love. Fire. He's got
love. Yeah, maybe the love is what powers him.
Maybe, who knows? But he is just doing everything right at the moment.
Warm up your saw.
He pulls that string, shows so much confidence. He's like, hey, boom, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Athletes, ready?
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Yeah, both of them are pretty quick. Dubicki was just a little bit faster. Now here is that 2 different styles that I was talking about. Dubicki started off with an even cut on the way down, but he's angling using the fulcrum of the saw on the upcut with a good time of 13:71. Gunther Dahlinger is used a similar style to Dubicki on the upcut, but he did the same thing for the downcut. So he had the saw up high, and he was using the blade and fulcrum for the saw on the way down and up. So now Gunther Dahlinger, unfortunately, with 14:42 is in 12th place, and Michael Dubicki, his time was okay, but it wasn't awesome. Not even close to Pierre Puyberret at the top of the ranking. So Michael Dubicki at the moment is in 9th position. Now, that is going to change things, I guarantee you, for the overall nations ranking, which should be really interesting to see once we come out of the stock saw.
Well, it looks like some nations are moving in really close together, and we're in discipline number 2 of 6. So this Nation Cup really has it in it. And what do you think the rookies? They're going to be watching now.
The rookies are definitely going to be watching and saying, "Hey, we did all that work, and you guys are messing it up out there. What's going on?"
Imagine that.
Yeah. Nah, I mean, the rookies were really fantastic earlier today. They had so many personal bests. They were dropping like flies all over the place, as we mentioned. So much great talent coming out of the rookies. And speaking of great talent that came from the rookies, Ferry Swan is one of them. And again, Ferry Swan going up against Danny Martin. This is 2 heats in a row where these 2 guys have gone head-to-head. Their personal best really not that far off. But, you know, Ferry Swan, he says earlier on to Pia in the interview, I don't really have a favorite discipline. But if he had to choose one that he didn't like as much as the others, this would be it. Because he is definitely better in the other disciplines where axe and saw are concerned. But with the power saw in his hand, he's not as strong as some of the other guys. So let's see if he can really make this happen against a very strong Danny Martin. And as I mentioned, Danny Martin, with these motor saws in hand, he is super solid. And seems like there's a little bit of a measurement issue with Danny Martin's log. So they're going to remark that one and make sure he's got a very clear 10-centimeter line that he can visualize and make sure that they have that marking on there absolutely correctly. Otherwise, it's going to be unfair. Here we go.
Warm up your saw.
It's also interesting to watch the body language of these guys. You know, the guys that are feeling confident, like you mentioned earlier, he starts the saw a certain way. He stands a certain way.
Ready?
Ferry Swan has that confidence at the moment.
3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, very nice start from both of them, Ferry Swan and Danny Martin, right on top of each other with that first cut. Barely any bottom swing there by Danny Martin. Ferry Swan coming up, and it's going to be close. Oh! Danny Martin, 12:45. Ferry Swan, 12:70. How close was that? And these 2 guys are right in the middle of the pack behind each other. Danny Martin in 6 and Ferry Swan in 8. That was a great heat between these 2 guys, and that just tells you right there, Ferry Swan is feeling good, but not his strongest discipline, so you know he is going to be looking at this footage with his mom, by the way, who is also one of the best trainers that he's got, because she and they watch all of this video footage, and they decipher it and determine what he can do better to really make it that much better when he gets to the next competition.
That's the way to do it. No doubt about it.
I mean, she's a former pro athlete herself, and so she knows how to look at these things with a really discerning eye, and those 2 have really helped each other along the way. But Danny Martin, always good with the motor saw, and especially this MS661 seems to have no problems for him at all, with a very minimal bottom swing and a beautiful upcut, 2 thin cookies, and like I say, thin to win is the way to go. But it wasn't that far off between these 2 guys. A real close battle and a fun one to watch.
And only one more heat's coming up, and the French guys up on top on position 1 and 3, and that would mean for the nation count, they're going to be moving up and giving the Polish guys a hard time soon.
Well, Severin Bühler also in 2nd place in this discipline, so that could help Switzerland come back up from 5th place. Meanwhile, though, we've got Lars Seibert and Emil Hansen getting ready for their stock saw heat number 8. And remember, 9:14 is the world record, so we're not real getting really close to that. So, you know, you got to have absolutely perfect conditions for those world records to drop. Another guy coming out of the rookie ranks. Something that we're noticing, too, is the rookies are coming through absolutely fit and ready to go.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Okay, Lars Seibert on the left-hand side. Emil Hansen on the right in the yellow. Watch the upswing here. Ooh, that's a wide... He took a wide berth on that one for the upswing, and it's going to be Lars Seibert with a 12:47. Emil Hansen taking a massively wide cut, and I have a feeling that he's cut over the line, and that's going to be a DQ for that Swedish man. I hope not, but he really took a wide cut on that one. So we'll see as we get a final call from our judge here on stage.
All right, your cut was good. Your cut is a DQ. Cut the line.
That is disappointing for Emil Hansen and also for Team Sweden.
Yep.
Because, I mean, you saw it. He came down and his upswing went way over to the right and he just went over the line. He had a massively thick cookie for that second cut. So that is too bad for Emil Hansen. But Lars Seibert had a good time of 12:38. That puts him in 6th position. So between him and Danny Martin, they should still stay within the top 5. Severin Büller's time of 12 seconds and being second in the stock saw should help Switzerland come up a couple of positions, maybe into position 4 or even 3. I do believe that Poland will drop down into position 2, and I think that France is going to move up onto the top of the ranking. But we'll see when we do finally take a look at the nations ranking. I'm only guessing at this point, but I'm just looking at my list here. And
that was a massive cookie.
Yeah, that was a massive second cookie for Emil Hansen, which is really too bad. You can see that second cookie from Lars Seibert. More or less perfectly even, those two cookies, and good job. So Danny Martin, nice job for him so far, sitting on top just behind or just ahead of Puy-Barré.
Yeah, just because he's just a fraction faster, but both guys with 20 points, which is impressive. Michael Dubitsky with 13 points in position 3, and then it's Red McNoll and, of course, Jorim Moore. But the overall standing in the nations rating, that's going to be the big one to watch because, of course, all 4 athletes are going to be counted together, the 2 rookies and the 2 pros. And like you predicted, France has improved, and so has Germany, but Poland still up on top. Wow.
Yeah, I'm coughing up a lung over here. Yeah, Poland holds on top, and France and Germany in good position, and Switzerland did move up a spot from 5th.
Yeah, so let's find out what Lars Seibert has to say. Pia and Lars, over to you guys.
Thank you, Troy. Yeah, we're back. Thank you, Marcus. Sorry. We're back with another interview with Lars Seibert by my side. Du vertrittst jetzt nicht nur dich, du vertrittst Deutschland. Wie fühlt sich das an, wenn du da oben stehst? Also, macht das irgendwas mit dir?
Ja, auf jeden Fall. Also es ist immer eine Ehre, für sein Land in der Sportart anzutreten. Und das ist eine Riesensache. Wir sind froh, dass dieser erste Nations Cup hier quasi ins Leben gerufen wurde. Und klar, wir sind alle als Team froh, hier zu sein. Natürlich jeder im Einzelnen muss seine volle Leistung geben. Ist ja ein neues Prinzip. Wir werden als Team gewertet, also muss jeder alles geben. Es ist Team Spirit, es ist super. Es ist wie immer eine super Veranstaltung. Wir sind alle glücklich, hier zu sein.
So I asked if it's what it is doing with him representing his country and not only himself, and he answered it's an honor for him, and of course he has to give everything. All the people from Germany, no, all the athletes representing Germany give everything, but they're competing as a team, and that's what it makes so nice, and they're very happy that this competition is happening right now. So my second question, meine zweite Frage, sorry. Meine zweite Frage ist, hast du irgendwelche persönlichen Ziele für heute? Also hast du irgendwelche Goals dir gesetzt?
Ja, auf jeden Fall. Ziel ist immer, einen Treppchenplatz zu erreichen. Ja. Das ist natürlich schwer. Wir haben ein gutes Starterfeld. Es sind alle Nationen, die heute hier sind, gut. Aber trotzdem, wir sind guter Dinge. Ich bin zwar ein bisschen bei der ersten Disziplin ein bisschen schwer reingekommen. Stockstow war okay. Jetzt kommen eigentlich meine Paradedisziplinen. Deswegen bin ich ganz guter Dinge. Und ja, dann schauen wir mal, wie es ausgeht. Aber wird schon gut werden.
Ich wünsche dir alles Glück. Ich drücke dir die Daumen und danke für deine Zeit. Danke fürs Interview. So I asked if he has some personal goals for the upcoming competition for himself, and he said yes, to give everything all the time. And he's a bit sad about his first performance in the first heat, but he's very happy for the next discipline because that's his favorite, and we're keen to watch him. And at this point, I'm going to hand it back to you, to Troy and Marcus.
Well, thank you very much. These guys, they look so big and mean on the pictures. And then you hear them talking in the interview, and they're such nice guys. That's beautiful stuff. And of course, Troy, I want to see you analyze the top 2, Pierre Puy-Barré and Severin Bühler, in a head-to-head, because that was very, very close. 11.92 for Puy-Barré, 12.0 for Bühler. Well, we need to take a closer look at that.
Yeah, I mean, the difference was 0.08 seconds, and you could see it was Severin Bühler who was actually quicker to get that saw up into position, but Puy-Barré had a slightly better upstroke and a cleaner last cut, but that was so close together. I mean, you need those high-speed cameras in order to really see who drops that cookie first, and that was I mean, that side-by-side, you could see, you know, it doesn't mean being the quickest on top of the log is automatically going to make you win this thing. And again, that technique comes into play. And Puy-Barré definitely has exactly the right amount of pressure. Barely any bottom swing as he came back up. But those two guys are really, really evenly matched up. So it was a nice one to see between those two, absolutely.
Yeah, really enjoyed that. No doubt about that. The next discipline, of course, is a standing block chop. And all you need and want to know about the standing block chop, well, you better watch this closely.
Standing block chop. At the standing block chop, the felling of a tree with an axe is simulated. A vertically positioned wooden block with a diameter of 30 centimeters has to be cut through both sides. A powerful and precise swing with the axe is the premise of a good result.
So here's the start list for standing block chop. Heat 1, Michael Delpin against Günther Dallinger. Then David Birra take on Andrea Rossi. Severin Bühler against Lars Seibert. Christian Kaczmarek against Redmer Knoll. Then we have Hamil Hansen take on Guillaume Moore. Ferry Swan against Danny Martin again. Armin Kugler against Michael Dubitsky. And finally Pierre Puy-Barré against Koen Martens. Let's do this.
And by the way, the world record, 11 seconds and change. The seasonal best is double that at 22. So that's a number to be aiming for these guys. And you can see, wow, Günther Dallinger, his personal best is way off the mark. But he's not here because he is good playing with Barbies. He's here because he's solid with an axe in his hand. So let's see if he can improve on that today, knowing he's going up against a good man in Michael Delpin. You'll see these guys more often than not start from the bottom of their stroke. They'll take one hit at the bottom, one hit at the top, and then they'll start with the double hits up and down. And then they'll move to the other side when they feel like their cuts are deep enough through the first side. The question is here, who is going to go over to the other side first? It looks like it's going to be Michael Delpin, or was it actually Günther Dallinger that went over first and is working on the backside of his block? Right now, though, it's looking very good. But they're both past that 35-second mark here, so this is a spot. Oh, tough one for Günther Dallinger there. 37.95, though, a personal best for Günther Dallinger. Great job. And Michael Delpin finally drops it in 44.22. So the tables were turned a little bit there, Marcus, as the man who had the fastest personal best pushed the man who didn't and changed his personal best to a fast time.
Everything and anything is possible. I can't stop saying that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
All right, both cuts are good.
So this is a really big deal for Günther Dallinger as well, because he's made it under the 40-second mark there. And so for him, that shows a massive improvement in the standing block chop, where he obviously struggled before. And now he's going to ride that. He's going to ride that confidence going into this discipline in the future and see that he can make improvements there. Michael Delpin, usually he's a lot stronger in this discipline, but these two guys, I think, were more evenly matched up than the statistics really let's see in that opening screen that we saw. And Michael Delpin, yeah, he was really good here. He had some good slabs coming out, but this one right here, watch what happens. A massive slab comes off the back on this stroke right here. Sometimes that can be a nightmare for the athlete, but a final big blow broke it through, and it was a great job by Günther Dallinger from Austria, and Michael Delpin dropped his at 44.02. So a little bit of changing of the guard there in that respect. As far as their times are concerned, Günther Dallinger notching the first time of the day and sits atop the standing block chop results after heat number 1. See, there's that slab that came off, and those things can sometimes really cause problems. All right. Heat number 2, David Birra going up against the Italian Andrea Rossi. Now, David Birra, he had a pretty rough stock saw. He's going to want to get back up into the ranking with a solid performance here. His stock saw, he was in 14th place. He's going to want to take this standing block chop to another level if he wants to help Switzerland move up the rankings one more notch from 4th to 3rd. And he's got to be solid here against Andrea Rossi. Rossi is a very, very strong competitor. This is a solid discipline for him. And as I've said from the start of the show, he is a very fit guy, so he really knows about conserving and utilizing his energy.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, good start by David Vieira. He was right on the whistle with that first hit. Nice job, Andrea Rossi in the blue, far side of your screen now. And these guys are almost in sync with each other there for a second. Rossi's going to be the guy to move over to the other side of his block first as we pass the 15-second mark here. David Vieira has now finally moved over to the other side of his block, about 4 strokes behind Andrea Rossi. Rossi's getting close. It should be 3-4 more hits. Oh, excuse me. It's only 1, and that is a great time by Andrea Rossi. 27:02, and Vieira struggling now on this standing block chop. David Vieira finally drops it in 38:88. Andrea Rossi with the time to beat now, though, with a 26:79 after adjustment, and David Vieira shifts down to 3rd place with a 38:73.
Okay, both cuts are good.
So far, only one personal best, and that is Gunther Dahlinger with his 38:48. Great job by him to actually come way, way ahead of his previous personal best of 45 and change. I think it might have even been more. And there you can see Andrea Rossi. Just the technique, the skills, it just all comes together for these disciplines, for these guys with so much experience. And, of course, you know, the fitness level. When you're hammering away on these blocks, you want to make sure you use the technique as much as possible. Otherwise, you start to get lazy with your body, and you start to really just use the upper body for these hits. And here's that final blow that puts that block down. Great job by Andrea Rossi, and still showing that he is a viable competitor in STIHL Timbersports as one of the older statesmen in this sport.
So next it's Switzerland against Germany. How about that one, Troy?
Yeah, Severin Bühler and Lars Seibert, 2 guys that are going to be going head to head here. Lars Seibert, this is his discipline.
And the size difference.
Yeah, he told Pia this is definitely his discipline. But as we've seen, the size difference does make a difference in some disciplines, but it also has a lot to do with the technique. Let's see if Lars Seibert can pull off both here.
He looks like a giant.
Yeah, he is a big man at 195 meter and 95 centimeters. He is massive. Moving over to the other side, and it's looking good for Lars Seibert as he is really making short work of that block, slabbing out really nicely. It shouldn't be long before he gets through. He might even get through in fastest time, although it's coming close there. Does it? 26:78. Lars Seibert just by 0.01 seconds atop the standing block chop results. And unbelievable, Severin Bühler with a 31:78 slips into 3rd place, 5 seconds off pace. What a great job by Lars Seibert.
Okay, both cuts are good.
And there's the adjusted time for Lars at 26:56, so he is now 0.23 seconds ahead of Andrea Rossi and atop the standing block chop results here. And let's look back at the power he can put in there. Now watch the technique that he uses here, pushing off that back leg, rotating his hips and his upper body to use that core strength to really slab out some massive chunks, bringing that axe well back to make sure that he's got a full swing, but also at the same time, Marcus, controlling each one of those blows so that he's got the right angle on the axe and he doesn't get that thing stuck in the block.
I love those pictures. That's brilliant.
That's a great angle right there, too, especially for those drives that Severin Bühler is making. And, I mean, you can see Severin Bühler, he's really not that far behind. You know, he's got the power, he's got the technique, but there's a couple of times where that axe got stuck in there, and having to wrench that thing out takes a lot of effort and a lot of time and a lot of energy. Are we going to get to see the baseball swing here on this final couple of hits?
I hope so. That's the one I'm waiting for.
Too bad.
I love that last one. That last swing,
where that block just goes flying off the top. All right, Christian Kaczmarek going up against Redmar Knoll. So two big guys, both of them heavy hitters, both of them big boys. So when you're taller, you can step back from the log a little bit more. You can take a wider stance with your legs, means that you can push off that back leg and really utilize that swing through your hips to put in more power to the axe head coming towards that block. But again, it's that control of the angle, control of the power, and keeping a steady flow of hits going. Here we go.
1, go!
You can see Kaczmarek on the backside just hammering away with everything he's got. There's Redmar Knoll. Knoll over, with an overhead view, looking really nice. Some super accurate hits there as Knoll moves over to the other side just behind Kaczmarek. This could be a close one between a couple of big boys who are not holding anything back, as they know the Nations Cup is at stake here, and both of them want to have a say in who's going to get there. And in this case, it's going to be Redmar Knoll with a 28-24. That's a pretty solid score for him. Christian Kaczmarek with a 33-73. And he's taking a look at that axe, and you can see a chunk of that wood is stuck on the axe, which means there could be something like a burr or something on the axe blade edge that is causing issue for him. So he'll definitely take a close look at that, as at this point, the only other axe discipline where he's going to need that is going to be springboard.
Both cuts are good.
So Christian Kaczmarek, my system hasn't updated here yet, but Christian Kaczmarek in second place in that one, and Redmar Knoll with a great time in first place. So
after 8 athletes, no DQs so far, and a personal best by the Austrian Günther Dallinger. Is there more to come? I ask you, Troy. We've got Hansen, Moll, Swan, Martin, Kugler, Dubitsky, Pubere, and Köhn-Martin still to come. So I guess 1 or 2 personal bests are still possible.
Definitely possible. Anything can happen, and as you know, will happen. And just waiting for my system to update. It's not yet, but I believe that Redmar... No, there we go. Now I got it. Redmar Knoll is in third place with his 28.01. Christian Kaczmarek in fifth. So that's not a bad position for him to be in at the moment. But let's not forget either that we have 4 more heats to go. And that's
some big names coming up.
Some big names coming up. Guillaume Moore, we know, is very strong in this discipline, as well as Danny Martin, Armin Kugler, Michael Dubitsky, Pierre Puy-Barret. This is a list of legends coming our way here.
Celebrity talk. Yeah, that's the overall standing that you mentioned just before. And a beautiful old picture of the original extreme sport.
The original extreme sport. All right. Emil Hansen going up against Guillaume Moore. Pretty evenly matched heat here. I'm going to give the advantage to Guillaume Moore just because of experience. Emil Hansen still cutting his teeth, so to say, coming out of the rookie rankings, but he has definitely made a name for himself as one of the future stars from Sweden. But we've seen Guillaume Moore already 2 times this season with some great standing block chop times.
3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, but he gets a big stick right off the bat, and Emil Hansen going for those quick hits, but Guillaume Moore now slapping out nicely here as some big chunks start to fly away from that block. Emil Hansen quick to switch over to the other side, but I believe Guillaume Moore was already over there. Emil Hansen, Guillaume Moore going at it here against each other. Nice big slab there for Guillaume. Emil Hansen coming close, Guillaume coming close, and it's going to be Guillaume Moore, 24-74. Emil Hansen in at 27-76, but a great job by Emil Hansen to knock down a personal best. In fact, both of these guys knocking down personal bests, and Guillaume Moore is looking real happy about how things went there as he sheaths up his axe.
Well, he's top of the list now, and like predicted, there's 2 more personal bests.
Okay, both cuts are good.
Well done, boys. That was a great heat.
Yeah, and I love the personal bests that are coming up. Guillaume Moore, top of the list there with a 24.67. Emil Hansen with a really solid 27.65 in 4th place at the moment. So Sweden still in the mix. If they can jump up there with a good run from Ferry Swan in the next heat, we'll see if maybe there will be some shifting in the overall nation standing as well. You could see these 2 guys just really going at it. And it was actually Guillaume Moore who was a stroke behind Emil Hansen as they came across to the other side. But it seemed to me like...
speed.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it seemed to me like Guillaume Moore got faster as the heat went on. He was hitting with good pace at the beginning, and Emil Hansen was hitting with really good pace at the beginning, but it seemed like Emil Hansen got a little bit slower in the latter part of the heat, and Guillaume Moore seemed to get stronger.
And how about that next heat? I'm not sure, but I think I've seen that before. Ferry Swan against Danny Martin.
Yeah, it's almost like this was history in repeat, or something. It's Groundhog Day or whatever you want to call it. But Ferry Swan and Danny Martin are going to be rocking against each other. Ferry Swan is strong in this discipline. He's made a lot of strides, in particular on the standing block jump. I can remember one of his earlier events as a rookie and seeing how good he was with the axe, but there was just every once in a while you'd see a little skip or a little hop where it just wouldn't contact right, and he's made mega advances in this discipline to really become one of the elite choppers out there. Danny Martin, of course, you can never count this guy out. Danny Martin's stronger in the other disciplines, but you know he's been working this one in the off-season to be ready for this competition. Here we go.
3, 2, 1, go!
So check the difference in speed between these 2 guys. Ferry Swan trying to get as many hits in and as little time as possible. Meanwhile, it's Danny Martin going for those big power strokes. Now, the accuracy of Ferry Swan is really impressive given the speed that he's hitting with. Danny Martin going for those big power hits on the other side. It's going to be close between these 2 guys. Let's see who can drop that top block first. And looks like it might be Ferry Swan. It is 26.23 and a 26.74. Wow. 2 really well matched up heats there. Ferry Swan with the faster axe in this case was just a hair faster than Danny Martin, but I'll tell you what, Ferry Swan slips into 2nd place just behind Guillaume Moore, and Danny Martin in 3rd place right behind Ferry Swan, and that is what a very close heat between 2 really well matched competitors will give you. It'll give you a good position at the top of the rankings here, and that means Danny Martin has moved back to the top of the overall rankings, and for Germany, that's a great thing because he and Lars Seibert are in positions 3 and 4 in standing block chop, and they are in positions 1 and 5 in the overall standings.
For the nation ranking, that could be vital.
Yes, definitely. It's about getting as high a point score as you can possibly get, and you can see there was one little mistake there right by Ferry Swan, but you could see he kept that flow going. And like I mentioned in the heat, the accuracy of his hits at that speed is just incredible. Danny Martin going for those big power strokes way from outside, you know, swinging for the fences, as they say, as he gets to the other side. Oh, and a big skip that I didn't see earlier on. And that's exactly what I was talking about. You know, you get a little bit tired, you get a little bit lazy, the angle of the axe changes a bit, and you get a big skip like that, and you don't get the cut you want to have. And could be that much better of a time for Danny Martin, but you know, that he did come that close to Ferry Swan, it was really only probably that skip that was the difference maker.
Well, maybe we can find out. I think Danny is standing right next to Pia, and maybe we can talk about that one swing. I didn't see that either in the competition, but that looked a bit dangerous now in the slow-mo.
Yeah.
Yes, we are back on site at the Kesselhaus, and I'm having Danny Martin right next to me. Danny, hi. Du bist jetzt auf dem 3. Platz, scheinst aber nicht ganz zufrieden zu sein gerade. Was ist da gerade passiert?
Ja, gut, ich bin ein Sportler, der eigentlich nie zufrieden ist. Gut, vorher war ich ja führend gewesen, aber am Standing wusste ich, ich will Top 5 werden. Ich denke, oder ich hoffe zumindest, dass es so bleibt. kann er nicht alles gewinnen und muss auch ein bisschen taktisch handeln. Und war nicht optimal gewesen, auch ein bisschen Pech gehabt. Zweite Seite war ein Ass drin, aber ich bin eigentlich ganz zufrieden. Halbe Sekunde hätte auch noch drauf gehen können oder runter gehen können, da hätten wir Ferris Wahn schlagen können. Aber man muss sagen, er ist ein sehr, sehr guter Sportler, hat verdient gewonnen.
Well, there was a little piece of wood in the wood block, and he would have loved to beat his competitor. He didn't, but he's still quite happy that he's in the third place now. Hast du irgendein Ritual, bevor du auf die Bühne gehst? Also irgendwas, was du jedes Mal machst, nur um Glück zu haben?
Na, man geht die Disziplinen durch, was man denn beachten soll oder was meine Schwachpunkte sind, und die gehe ich einfach durch und konzentriere mich einfach auf die Disziplin.
So I asked if he has some kind of ritual before he goes on stage, and he said, well, he keeps going through the process of the next discipline and keeps thinking about it just to be sure he'll do his best. And I think you're going to do your best at the next discipline. You have all my luck. Yes. So thanks for the interview, and we're heading back to you, Troy.
Well, thanks, guys, but he's still on top of the overall standing.
Still on top of the overall, so he can't be really sad about that. And what he meant by Austin there was a knot. There was a knot in the wood. So, I mean, it does happen from time to time. He probably just got in there and hit that knot, and that's where the skip came from. All right, here we go. Armin Kugler,
3,
Mikael Dubicki.
2, 1, go!
So both of these guys really solid in this discipline. I'm going to give a slight advantage to Armin Kugler in this one because he is so tall. Mikael Dubicki, though, he is a powerhouse, and he doesn't seem to care if he's got to yank that saw out of Timbuktu or out of the block, or that axe, excuse me. He is so solid in here, and Armin Kugler looking good, though, and Mikael Dubicki, a little stick there. Ooh, it's shaking at the top. Now it's going to take an extra one, and it's going to be Armin Kugler, though, with a personal best and a season best 20.03. And Mikael Dubicki, he was just a little bit slower with a 24.26. So great job by both of these guys. And Armin Kugler, again, showing his strength in this discipline and how that height is really being used to his advantage.
All right, both cuts are good.
That's nice to hear, and both Austrians obviously practicing the standing block job. Two personal bests in that discipline.
Yeah, absolutely. Gunther Dahlinger with the 38.48 personal best. Not as high as he would like to be in the rankings in standing block, but at this point he doesn't care. He's got a PB under his belt, and Armin Kugler, I mean, just really, really great in this discipline. He often anchors the team competition on this particular discipline, so you know he's strong here. That's not saying anything against Mikael Dubicki, but you could see that power worked against him in this case as he got that axe stuck a couple of times, and then it was just a little wobbly at the top, and he needed that extra hit, and that extra 1.5 swings, let's say, is what cost him the 4 seconds against Armin Kugler. But both these guys are at the top of the standing block chop rankings. Danny Martins, 5th place at the moment, so he's still among the top 5, as was his wish, as we heard in the interview with
and
Pia.
he's still on top of the standings in the overall.
Still on top of the standings in the overall, and that bodes well for Germany as well. But we've got one more heat coming up between Pierre Puy-Barré and Koen Martens. Now, that's a heat that we can talk about till the cows come home, because both of these guys are super solid. And there you see, again, they're not really far off each other as far as their statistics are concerned. 190, 187, 110 kilograms, 91 kilograms. Both of them are in their 30s. Koen Martens edging up towards the 4.0 mark, so he'll be happy about that. But Pierre Puy-Barré, again, he's an anchorman in this discipline. Koen Martens, pretty solid. Let's see how the slider of the two can go up against the Frenchman here. Pretty good pace for both of these guys. They're hitting at more or less the same pace, blocking out nicely. Puy-Barré and Martens both going over to the other side at the same time. There was that brief moment of silence on the stage as we didn't hear any strikes happening at all. Pierre Puy-Barré looking good here, though. Koen Martens tiring. Oh, how close was that? Koen Martens with a 22.74 and Pierre Puy-Barré with a 23.41, and it's Koen Martens again with that hidden space power that's coming from somewhere inside the planetoid that's hiding inside his body. The man's an alien. Unbelievable. Look at how happy he is, though. Koen Martens knows that he just battled up a great heat with Pierre Puy-Barré, and we do have a flag on stand A, and that's Pierre Puy-Barré. So I don't know what that could be other than a false start or an early start. So we'll have to see and find out what our guys from competition control have to say. I think they do the heartbeat thing on purpose in the background just to make everybody there nervous.
For sure.
Yeah. So it is Pierre Puy-Barré's stand that is under review. They'll be taking a look at that with those high-speed cameras.
CCC.
Yes. And I really do believe that this has something to do with the start time and getting a before the go start. But I might be wrong here. Oh, no, they're looking at the last hit, if he wrenched it or if it was a clean cut. Interesting. I don't know.
That's a close call.
That's a close call. It doesn't look like it wrenched to me, but I'm not standing there, so I can't really say. But it would be good to have those slow motions from that section of the cut to really see if that's what actually happened. And you could see here the little twist of the axe. That could be the bullet that shoots himself in the foot.
It's great to see how many angles CCC has to...
A ton of angles to work with, but that's a really important one here because they're not allowed... That last blow has to be clean, and if the axe actually wrenches, like you see, he brings his hands down, and that means the fulcrum of the axe being in the wood pushes the block off.
But isn't that pure instinct in that situation?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's a hit that... can be a clean hit, but because he wrenched the axe down, it's the
your
axe.
cut was good, Koen, and your cut was DQ, was a wrenching.
Yeah, see? There you go. So that was that wrenching action by Puy-Barré that caused the block to come off, and it wasn't a clean cut. So that is really an unfortunate situation for Pierre Puy-Barré because it was a very, very good heat between these guys. So that's our only DQ so far in standing block chop. And a great job by Koen Martens, by the way, with a time of 22:54, moves into second place in standing block behind Armin Kugler. And that brings him up to fourth place in the overall standings. Armin Kugler sitting in third, Mikael Dubicki in second, and Danny Martin in first. So again, with the DQ of Puy-Barré, that could change the situation for the French big time.
And let's not forget, we're going to lose 8 athletes. We're down to 8 for the second round.
We're going to cut it in half.
Woo.
Yeah, and there's that final blow, and there's the wrenching action right there.
Do you think he thought it was the final blow, or did he?
I think he thinks it was the final blow, and I bet you dollars to donuts, had he left that axe in position and the block had just fallen down, we wouldn't be talking DQ at the moment.
Because I think he was going for another one. And then it just dropped.
He probably wanted to come back out of the block and just have a safety swing, and that's what happens. And I mean,
that's brutal. That's
one of those things. It is what it is.
So that's the overall standing, the top 8 proceeding to the next round, and of course the national standing. That's
this will be interesting. Okay, Poland stays on top, but only by the hair of their chinny chin chin. Germany into second place. France now moves up into third place. Switzerland stays in fourth. So, yeah, that's some not major shifts going on there. So it's pretty solid.
And look at the points, how close these teams are together. So actually, really, everything and anything is still possible. With,
third and fourth are just 75 points apart, or 0.75 points apart. So it's real close. There's still lots of action to come, and there's lots of opportunity for these teams to make steps towards taking over the top. But Poland really is in control at the moment.
Oh, wow. Let's go to a closer analysis of the top 2. I'm really interested how you see the difference between our 2 fastest. Let's do this.
So Armin Kugler and Koen Martens. Now, these 2 guys couldn't be any more different. They weren't in a heat together here, but you can see Koen Martens really pushing off that back foot. He was a little bit slower than Armin Kugler over to the other side, but you can see so quick with the axe, so accurate with the axe. Armin Kugler, very good with the axe as well. And, it's 1-2 extra blows for Koen Martens. And that's the time difference between those two. And that's why Armin Kugler's on top and Koen Martens is in second place.
I love the celebration from Koen. You know,
Koen Martens, yeah.
He knew immediately after that last blow. And that was a good time. That's great.
I'm 37 and I'm still valid. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Absolutely fantastic. And like we said, only 8 athletes left. Lars Seibert, Ferry Swan, Pierre Puberet, Julien Moore, Koen Martens, Armin Kugler, Michael Dubritsky and Danny Martin. And that, of course, means that we have 2 French guys, 2 German guys, but only 1 Swedish man, 1 man from Austria, and only 1 Polish guy. So taking a look at the schedule before we go to the next discipline, I'm getting overexcited because there's so much happening. A lot of these events you can still watch online. Some of these you can even watch on Amazon Prime. But taking a look at what's going to happen within the next few weeks, of course, tomorrow we've got the Austrian Pro Championships coming up, and on the 27th of August, the German Pro Championship. That's going to be a big one, hopefully with a live audience, Troy.
Hopefully, yeah. Gelsenkirchen, we'll see.
I think we're still going for that. And now we're down to 8 athletes, and the next discipline is going to be the single buck. How that works, find out.
The 2-meter-long cross-cut saw used for the single buck discipline is made especially for competition. A series of consistently patterned 10-centimeter-long teeth are cut with a laser on one side of the saw and then hand-sharpened. Saw teeth are divided into 2 types, cutters and rakers, just like on the old-school saws. The saw weighs about 5 kilos and its base price starts at around 1,500 euros. Single buck. The single buck is a one-man saw about 2 meters long. With this, the athletes have to cut off a complete disc of a 46-centimeter thick wooden block. The perfect interplay between rhythm and strength is the key to success.
So and here's the starting order for the single buck. In Heat 1, we'll see Lars Seibert take on Ferry Swan, followed by the French duel, Pierre Puberet against Julien Moore. In Heat 3 will be Koen Martens against Armin Kugler. And in Heat 4, Michael Dubritsky against Danny Martin. It is time to rock and roll with our 8 last remaining athletes.
Yeah, and single buck, as we say so often, the misery whip or the pain saw. It is, as you heard, a 2-meter-long crosscut saw. The thing about this particular instrument is that you have to keep the flow going. You can't take a pause in there somewhere. You can't make a small mistake on angle. Otherwise, that thing will stop and bow, and then you could get into big problems. Now, this is without assistance. This is another thing that makes this particular discipline a little bit harder, because most often when you have these individual competitions, you will have an assistant on stage to wedge and lube that saw to make sure that it keeps moving through the block. It's a 46-centimeter block, as you heard, and that lube and wedge prevents the block from actually binding on the saw. Now here, without assistance, you've got to make this work without having that wedge or that lube in place. So if that saw happens to stop and it binds or something like that happens, restarting it is quite the bear. Here we go. Lars Seibert, Ferry Swan.
Ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Ferry Swan starts off with a couple of quick cuts, but he gets hooked up really fast. Lars Seibert had a really great start, and he kept that saw working all the way through. Lars Seibert with the additional time going through the bottom without having any issue at all, and he's got himself a personal best with 13.85. Ferry Swan off the top of that one, got that saw stuck right off the hop, and that caused a lot of problems for the young Swede in the beginning. Once he got it going, though, he kept the flow moving nicely, but it wasn't enough to beat Lars Seibert. Adjustment for both of these guys, and we're looking at 13.65 to 15.45.
All right, both cuts are good.
All right, so far Germany getting represented really well by the 2 remaining guys here in the final. Lars Seibert with a fantastic time and a personal best of 13.65 in single buck. And that means we're going to take a look back here at what happened at the start. Hopefully we can get a shot of Ferry Swan. All right, let's take a look here. So watch this, what happened with Ferry Swan. Right here, it hooks up, and then he has to fight to restart that saw. Meanwhile, Lars Seibert is already more than halfway through that cookie as Ferry Swan finally gets his flow going, and Lars Seibert was off to the races and had this one in the bag, and Ferry Swan was just 2 seconds too slow for Lars Seibert. So the young Swede will be thinking about how to improve the starts there and making sure that that doesn't happen to him again. But again, you have that block that could bind on the saw at the top of the cuts, usually not though. That's just about the angle and getting the saw moving. But Lars Seibert played this game exactly right today, using the entire saw for a really nice clean cut. And you can see there the sweeper teeth doing a great job to get all that gunk out of there so the cutters can do a nice job. All right, French battle, heat number 2. Pierre Puy-Barré against Guillaume Moore. The world record, by the way, 12.01 seconds. So Lars Seibert is not really that far off the world record pace. And that should set him up on top of the rankings really well. But Pierre Puy-Barré is really, really good in this discipline. He's a big man with long legs that can really utilize that extra space that he's got, that he can step away from the block and really pull that saw through clean and long. And that really is the key, is to use as much of those teeth as you can to cut clean.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
And right away, Pierre Puy-Barré using the entire length of that saw, in contrast to Guillaume Moore, who's making choppy, quick cuts. And Pierre Puy-Barré really close to the bottom of the cut, and he's going to do it in a great time of 13:66. Great job by Puy-Barré, and he's got himself a PB. So Pierre Puy-Barré has a personal best at 13:66, and that is 3 personal best, because Guillaume Moore, also with the pressure from Pierre Puy-Barré, has a 16:36, and that's a personal best for him as well. So great job for these two Frenchmen here.
Okay, both cuts are good.
3 or 4 with the personal best. I mean,
yeah,
what are these guys doing?
And there's entirely a chance that Ferry Swan could have had the personal best, coulda, woulda, shoulda, but you know, that hook up at the top of his cut was really a problem for him as we take a look back at this battle between the two Frenchmen. And you can see right away, Pierre Puy-Barré uses the entire length of that saw working for him and really efficiently cutting. And Guillaume Moore just taking those choppy short strokes to get things going, and he actually never really stepped away from those choppy strokes, kept it going to the bottom. Not a bad time, 16:36, walks away with a personal best, but Puy-Barré with a really nice cut here. Still, but the adjustment they made in the timing after competition control had their hands on it has now changed things here in the single buck standings. Pierre Puy-Barré, his official time is now at 13:44. That means he jumps 21 hundredths of a second ahead of Lars Seibert, who is now in second place after that adjustment. So moving on to the next heat, and it is Koen Martens against Armin Kugler. Armin Kugler, a good sawyer when it comes to the single buck, but today you just can't count out Koen Martens. The way he's been,
No, you can't.
the
Never
way
can.
he's been performing, it's anybody's guess. I mean, he's probably going to come along there and cut this with one hand on the saw. Who knows? I mean, the guy's unbelievable. I don't want to jinx him or anything like that, but he is having a day. So Koen Martens going up against Armin Kugler. Armin Kugler, plenty of experience with this particular discipline, really, really solid at the single buck. Koen Martens, you could see Koen, his stance is extremely wide for the height that he actually has. And he's going to be putting every ounce of his core into it. You know, as we've seen all day long, his core is on fire.
3, 2, 1, go!
A little hop step in for Koen Martens as he gets things started. Armin Kugler also using a really efficient full-length stroke there. This is going to be a close one between these two veterans. Armin Kugler coming close to the bottom. Koen Martens right there with him, but I think it's going to be Kugler, and it is Kugler in 14.72. And an unfortunate little knob left for Koen Martens to cut the last little bit off at a 17.61, but he'll take it as a personal best. And Koen Martens, unbelievably, is the slowest guy so far in single buck with a 17.61, and it is Armin Kugler moving up into third place with an unofficial time of 14.72, and that's a personal best as well.
What have these guys been eating? I mean, can you believe it? Well, 6 athletes, 5 personal bests.
It's interesting to note that the 46-centimeter logs that they've been using for the single buck are clearly very, very good pieces of wood, because every single athlete in the rookies had a personal best in the single buck with the exception of one, and now we're in the same situation here. Every single athlete with a personal best in the single buck with the exception of one, and that would be Ferry Swan. Not to pick at pennies on the ground there, but yeah, it is a really, really nice set of heats that we've seen for both the rookies and the pros. Let's look back here. Koen Martens with a little hop step to get started. Not the worst thing in the world, but you could see it was just all Armin Kugler there with that big frame of his, really able to step off that back foot without having to work so hard through the upper body. And Koen Martens just had a bit more work cut out for him to keep up with the big man Armin Kugler. And that was the difference maker. Koen Martens with a 17.25 after adjustment. Armin Kugler with a 14.58. Still personal best for both of these guys. But you can see, right there, it was just a little bit of a stick and a bow. And that bending of the saw actually broke the cookie off of the bottom bit. And he had that knob left he had to cut off. That is a really tough situation to be in for a guy like Koen Martens, so he's got to make sure that saw stays in position to finish the cookie off. Otherwise, it counts as incomplete and a DQ. All right. Michael Dubicki going up against Danny Martin. Evenly matched guys there. Danny Martin's not a guy that we see doing really well in the single buck very often. That doesn't mean anything, though, today, as we've seen. And, yeah, Michael Dubicki on a roll this season, really on fire. So they'll set his saw in place, measure it, make sure that everything is completely fair, and then get these guys ready to rock and roll in the final heat in single buck. Remember, we only have 8 athletes remaining in competition in 2 disciplines. That is this one, the single buck, and then the springboard with 2 boards. Now, we did see last weekend the springboard for the rookies for the first time in competition with a single board, just so that they can get their feet a little bit wet in this discipline. But with the pros, it's 2 boards, and it is a big deal because it is the crux discipline before getting into the hot saw, which is the final decider.
Ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, Danny Martin, let's see you do it. And Michael Dubicki, short, choppy strokes. Danny Martin using more of the saw, but Dubicki, so much power in his stroke. And let's see who's going to drop it first. It's going to be Dubicki with a 14.28 and Danny Martin with a personal best of 15.48. A real nice battle there between the two. Danny Martin's worst score in an individual discipline so far, sitting in 6th place with a 15.48, but it's a personal best, and actually it just adjusted him to a 15.26, so now he's in 5th, so he stays top 5 in this discipline, and it is Michael Dubicki who finally redeems himself after the standing block chop, and he moves up into 3rd place in the single buck.
And the top athletes very, very close together. We'll see it in the rankings soon, but this is absolutely amazing. And this is going to stay very, very exciting until the very last discipline.
It's going to be super interesting. And again, every single guy with the exception of one had a personal best in there in this discipline. So clearly they had some good wood. Maybe we could get an interview with Bart Janssen later. I don't know. Ask him about what makes wood good for cutting. If it's dry, if it's wet, if it's air temperature.
Good, yeah.
But it was definitely good wood. I mean, geez, just fantastic. Great job by Michael Dubicki, though. Poland staying really, really fit in the rankings here, still on top. Interestingly enough, though, in the overall standings, Pierre Puy-Barret, even with his DQ and standing block chop, is on top of the rankings with 36 points. 1 point behind him is Michal Dubicki, tied with Danny Martin with 35 points. And if it came down to a head-to-head battle, Danny Martin would actually move into second place just ahead of... no, excuse me. That would stay the way it is. Michal Dubicki would stay in second, and Danny Martin would be in third with that tie.
But how about that? Puy-Barret with 36, and then Dubicki and Danny Martin with 35 points.
And Armin Kugler with 33. So it's really, really close among
close
the top
together.
guys. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Oh, wow. So Nations Cup, oh, wow, just as close.
Yep.
40.75 for Poland, but France and Germany within striking position, especially France with,
13.25, Germany with a 10.50.
Yeah, really going for it.
Switzerland stays in fourth place at the moment, though. Solid.
Oh, wow. A lot going on in this competition. And this Nations Cup, I think that's something very special. And I'm sure not only you and me are going to watch this on TV, but a lot of people would like to see something like this happen a lot more times. And if you're willing to watch some more STIHL Timbersports, why not switch to Amazon Prime? Because they are featuring STIHL Timbersports. And what this can look like... well, just keep your eyes wide open, and your ears are going to hear this man scream a lot.
Oh my God, how close is this? It's one of the closest heats we've had all day long, and it's Australia!
When the crowd start, erupting, screaming, and shouting, it just really does give you goosebumps.
It's pretty awesome to compete in front of a crowd like this.
I've been working my ass off the last 5 years to get to this point.
Is it going to be the checker bubble? Yes, it is! And the crowd goes bananas! He moves, then goes down. He's looking good!
It might make some people nervous. It doesn't make me nervous. It makes me ready to go.
To come here to the World Championships is one of my dreams. It has been ever since as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, shivers. Shiver me timbers, boys. Speaking of timbers, there's a lot of timber cutting going on here, eh?
Oh, yeah, no doubt about that. And of course, today we've seen a lot of the future of timber sports.
Yes.
From 16 years to 22, that's actually the men that are going to be competing over the next few years. And these men here, I don't know if you can see it, in black and white.
In their white pants.
Oh, yeah, looking flashy and stylish. They were the stars of the whole thing. This is the original extreme sports. And how this all began, how this all happened, well, we'll show you right now.
Expert woodsman who can cut down a tree more easily than most people can chop one up. When it really comes to tackling large lumps, you can't beat the men of the forestry companies.
An axeman's gathering.
This is Thomas losing the lumps that gets to it.
Can you feel it?
I got goosebumps just watching that. There's nothing quite like being there live, but if you can't be there live, Amazon Prime is as good as any a place to start, and that'll give you a whole list of different events that you can watch from the early days right on up until most recent events. So fantastic. If you can't get there live, check it out on Amazon Prime. It's another fantastic way to watch it.
Oh, there's nothing Nothing better than that. And of course, we already had a lot of events in this year 2021, and there's still a few more to come. Take a look at this. So we started off this summer on the 3rd of July, and we're going to finish the summer on the 28th of August. But that does not mean that we do not have a great fall of STIHL Timbersports. We're going to update you on those event days very, very soon. But for the moment, make sure to be with us on the 21st and, of course, the 28th of August. And tomorrow, we've got the Austrian Pro Championship coming up as well.
Yep.
So that's the schedule for August. And September and October are still to come.
September, same, but different. In October, the World Championships.
Ooh, yeah, baby. That's going to be a big one. That's the one to look forward to. And springboards, of course, is going to be the next discipline. Isn't that one of your favorites, Troy?
I love this discipline because, and I mentioned when Pia was here filling in for you, I mentioned this to her, that it is the finicky discipline, the kitty cat discipline, because so many things can happen in this.
You didn't say the kitty cat discipline.
I said the kitty cat discipline, you know, slap me off the back of my hand with that one. But it really is so finicky. You just never know what's going to happen with this one. And, you know, that's unfortunately, we don't have the audience there. The atmosphere is a little bit missing. So that really special thing that makes these events live so awesome is what I really would like to have back sooner than later. Please, folks, Germany, government, everywhere in the world, let's get this thing done and dusted and get back to live events and have some fun where we can really get that goosebump standing on our skin again.
It comes down to Mitch Argent and Shane Jordan battling hard on the standing block. Who is it going to be? Is it going to be Australia or New Zealand? Oh my God, how close is this? And it's Australia!
The atmosphere last night in the team's relay was unreal.
That is their title of Team World Champion 2 years in a row.
Oh, definitely. It'd be the noisiest crowd I've competed against.
Shane Jordan's already over there.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of getting goosebumps thinking about it right now.
The crowds here, they were just erupting.
You feel the energy of the crowd.
My goodness, what a great comeback from Belgium with a time of 1.
The crowd was absolutely electric.
And it was so much noise and support.
Ja, doch, das pusht schon rum und mein Fanclub ist auch da.
Very passionate about their country and, yeah, the competitors.
Yeah, it feels super.
Oh my goodness, look at that.
It's pretty awesome to compete in front of a crowd like this.
But he's not giving up. He's looking good.
Like such an adrenaline rush. It's an amazing feeling.
They make a lot of noise, and that's good for our spirit. It's going to be the Czech Republic, and the crowd goes bananas. It's absolutely extreme here. Man hört's.
Oh, yeah. This is STIHL Timbersports. And by the way, this is our next discipline, the springboard.
Springboard. Springboard simulates the traditional way of felling trees, climbing up over thick roots. First, notches known as pockets are chopped into the log. 2 springboards are then anchored into these pockets. The athlete then climbs up to chop through a 27-centimeter thick block of wood in the fastest time possible.
And that gives us a chance to look at the starting order here in the springboard discipline. In Heat 1, Lars Seibert will take on Ferry Swan, followed by Pierre Puberet against Guillaume Moore. Then it will be Koen Martins against Armin Kugler. And in our final heat, Michael Dubitsky against Danny Martin.
Yeah, Heat 2, the two Frenchmen going head-to-head once again. I'm going to give the advantage to Guillaume Moreau in that one. In the first heat, Lars Seibert, he's a big man. He's got to have really solid pockets, so that board is stable to support his 120 kilograms. On the other side, though, Ferry Swan will get up there quickly, but he's going to have a lot more trouble if that top board isn't really well secured to cut that top block down and really do well in this one. Ferry Swan, though, is quite strong in this discipline. He's come on in the last couple of years, improving in the springboard quite a lot. Lars Seibert, he really has his work cut out for him going up against a guy like Ferry Swan, because he knows in his head that he's got to have two perfect pockets and two perfect boards in order to really get up there and feel comfortable and be able to use his entire power to cut through that top block. So he's going to have a lot going through his head at the moment. Ferry Swan will be running on what he already knows that he can do in this discipline.
And Kesselhaus looking really good, by the way.
Yeah, they've done a great job with the lighting just to keep that atmosphere clean, even under the circumstance that we got here.
Stand
so they've done a great job.
Timber. 3, 2, 1. Go!
So a perfect pocket here is 4 hits, and then it should be done. And Ferry Swan with a 4-hit pocket, and that board is almost perfect. Great placement by Ferry Swan. Lars Seibert working hard to get that first pocket placement set and get him back up there. And Ferry Swan, it looked like he had a 4-hit pocket. He's changed it to 6, now 7, and he's trying to clean that out very, very much. You might have a little bit second guessing going on there, but he's now got his second board in place, and Lars Seibert is placing the pocket for his second board. Ferry Swan, though, with the advantage up on that second board and working on the top block now, as Lars Seibert really struggling to try and find a clean pocket. And look at that. That is another perfect board by Ferry Swan. He's gotten so good at this discipline now. A little bit surprised that his back foot isn't farther back on the board to really try and utilize that pressure that he can push off the back leg and twist his hips through the hit. Yeah, but he's doing well. Lars Seibert, big slabs coming off for the big man up top, and it looks like he's got a solid board up there as well. So this could be an opportunity for Lars Seibert to catch up to Ferry Swan, but they do have a time limit here, and I don't think Lars Seibert's going to be able to do it, as Ferry Swan is finally on the backside of his, and he drops it in 1:16.21. Lars Seibert shouldn't be that far behind as he's moved over to the backside of his. Try and imagine this, though. Lars Seibert gets those two boards locked into place, and we've got him winning this heat instead. He took a long time with those boards and still managed to catch up to Ferry Swan pretty close. He's only 11 seconds off pace there, so that was all about the pockets for Lars Seibert. Yeah, once he was up top there, Marcus, Lars really worked that block through in no time flat. So if you compare the actual times it took him to get through the block compared to Ferry Swan, he was actually quicker. But the thing that really tied him up and kept him slow was setting those first pockets. And Ferry Swan was nearly perfect with his pockets.
Yeah, especially the first pocket seemed to be an absolute slammer. Not being quite sure on that second pocket. I felt like he might have even been able to place that one after 4 hits, but
I'm with you there, absolutely.
But he thought about it, said, I'll give it 2 more shots.
He second-guessed himself, and that happens a lot with this discipline because these guys can see these pockets being set up, and they feel like, okay, when they've got their pocket set, if there's a little bit of slough or something left in there, they want to clean it out with the axe instead of with their hand, which is not the worst thing in the world because you don't want to get your hand all jammed up in there with slivers and stuff. But you can see here, that first pocket was perfect. 4 hits, great board, and Lars Seibert was really struggling to set that first pocket for himself, and he just kept rethinking it. And Ferry Swan was already on that top block and working on that, or that top board and working on that block while Lars Seibert was trying to set his second pocket. Finally gets it set, gets the board in place, and Ferry Swan was, I'm going to say, 90% of the way through, switches his stance, switches his handhold, and goes to the backside. But Lars Seibert wasn't that far behind, and had he been up on that second block a second or two earlier, might have been a different race on top.
And that is quite some height. That's
2 meters up plus then, and you don't want to mess around up there with that really, really sharp instrument in your hands. I mean, you gotta be confident, you gotta be solid in position, and you gotta make sure that you really fixed on top of the board. And what I have to really say, and big compliments to Ferry Swan, those boards were perfectly placed. They were absolutely ideal. He had just the right angle. The only thing is, I would love to have seen Ferry's back foot a little bit farther back on the board. He could have put a little bit more effort into that block. But you know what? It's like apple and tomato. What difference does it make? He did a great job up there.
And what about our hashtag STIHL TIMBERSPORTS? Join us on that. Send us pictures, all the info you want.
Get involved in the conversation.
Absolutely. And let's not forget, we've got Switch.
Oh, yes.
With Tolga, that's a nice one to join in if you want to talk about
What's his name again?
Oh, I forgot.
Tolga Timbersports, I think it is, isn't it? Yeah. Let's not forget hashtag Kiss My Axe. That's my favorite.
Timber Tolga, of course, is ready for you on Switch. And if you want to get some information done, if you want to drop him a line, he'd be very happy to answer everything you say.
Absolutely.
And of course, talking about the springboard, this is the discipline that the rookies needs to learn before they get to be a pro. So I think they'll be sitting around in Kesselhaus, talking to the pros, watching them move, and seeing a young guy like Ferry Swan on those first hits to get up there.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Ferry Swan's been working on this discipline to really perfect it as much as he could in the last little while. And as we've seen, the Rookie Academy gave them their first opportunity to really get involved with the springboard. The rookies will only do one springboard. So, you know, when we saw the first time for the rookies actually competing with the springboard earlier on last week, then we saw them just do one springboard. Yeah, let's get them up there slowly. We don't have to throw them up 2 meters in the air with a sharp axe and limited experience. So that's why the Rookie Academy, and that's why that first competition with the springboard officially involved in the rookie competition was so good for these guys to really get the feel of how this competition works. And then they can talk to the pros that have been in this position a few times. They can get the information, and they can see a guy like Ferry Swan, who was the rookie champion, come through and hit a perfect 4-hit pocket to set that first board and get up on board. I mean, great job by him today. And like I said, you know, this is a finicky discipline. It's a super hard one.
And that's what the Nations Cup is all about, getting the rookies and the pros together. And I think the invention of that competition is perfect. And it's going to be great for the future of timber sports.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
it's
now
a good
the
way to
rookies
apply
are growing
both of these guys together.
Yeah,
absolutely. Faux show.
So we're ready for our next heat, which will be between the two Frenchmen, Pierre Puybarret and Guillaume Moore. And do you have a favorite on that one?
I'm going to give this one to Guillaume Moore because I saw him do this very discipline earlier on. Very solid athlete in this discipline. That's not taking anything away from Pierre Puybarret because he is very good as well, but just the absolute size difference between these two gentlemen. Not massive, but Guillaume Moore is perhaps a little bit more adept at the springboard than Pierre Puybarret is, even though Pierre Puybarret has the experience and the time on these boards more than the other.
And of course, his personal best is under 1 minute, which always makes him a great contender. And there he is in his final preparations.
Yeah, Guillaume Moore hasn't managed to get a personal best under 130. So
not yet.
Not yet. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything. We've seen a lot of personal bests fall this and last weekend. So I'm looking forward to hopefully being right again for an athlete. I know I was right in Australia for their winner. Thanks, pat myself on the back for that one. And I hope I'm right for the sake of Guillaume Moore, because I really like to see him do well here, because I think he can be a very solid springboard athlete.
And he looked really good in practice.
Yes, very good.
Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
So the experience of Puybarret will be his big advantage here. Guillaume Moore. And Puybarret has got his pocket set already. He's up there, but that board is sagging just ever so slightly. But the second board is the more important board. So as long as he can get that second board in place and be confident with it. And he's got himself a 4-hit pocket on that second board. The question is it going to be stable enough for the big man up top? Guillaume Moore has got himself up there and is struggling to find that second pocket position. I believe his board is sagging a little bit. A quick sweep with his fingers, but Pierre Puybarret is already way up top working on the top block. Now, Guillaume Moore has a pretty good board, although there is a bit of sag by both of these guys on their boards. So this is going to be a tiring heat for both of these gentlemen because they're going to have to push not with their hips as they would like to, but they're going to have to work it from their shoulders and arms and chest. And that is going to make this heat really difficult for these two guys. They're going to be tired by the time they get through to the second size, but it's Puy-Barré who's going to block this one off the top before Guillaume Moore with a 105.39. Let's see if Guillaume Moore can really beat his best time of 135.81. I'm crossing my fingers for him because I would like to see a personal best here for this man. All right, he's gotten through pretty deep there. I don't think he's going to get his 135 unless he's got that Superman chop for that last side. He's tired. You can see it there. He's just got nothing left in the tank. A couple more hits should do it. It's looking tenuous. There it is, 139.06. So no personal best for Guillaume Moore, and I can slap myself across the face for making a bet on him. But nevertheless, a good job by both of these guys. Pierre Puy-Barré with a 105.13. Guillaume Moore with a 139.06. Pierre Puy-Barré with the fastest time so far today in springboard at the top of the leaderboard so far. Tough discipline. So many things playing into factoring into the situation here. Cutting the first pocket, making sure that you've got a quick pocket, getting the board in position so it's stable. And you could see the difference between Ferry Swan's board. They had a nice angle on them so you could push off that back end of the board. Whereas these two guys both had saggy boards up on the top there. And
you don't want a saggy board. No, I'd be so scared.
Gentlemen, you don't want a saggy board at all. Yeah,
true.
No, seriously.
Very true.
And if you're 2 meters up in the air with that axe, you do not want to have a saggy board. That's the last thing you want to have because it requires all your power coming from your upper body. You can't use your lower body, and the confidence for really taking those big swings to get proper hits on that top block is just not there. And you can see here Guillaume Moore struggling with that second pocket. He didn't do too badly on his first pocket. I'm going to say it was probably 8 hits to get the pocket in place, but he just kept rethinking and re-hitting that second pocket. And then there was just too much action going on in there. And by the time he got that second board in, he was dead tired already. And even Puy-Barré, who is a veteran, was struggling on that top board to cut that block down because he couldn't use his hips. He couldn't use that back leg to push off of. And he was just had nothing left in the tank after this. So luckily, the next discipline for these guys, if they survive and make it through into the final 6, is going to be the hot saw. Guillaume Moore is in a bit of trouble right now in position 4, though. If he doesn't make it into the top 6, then he is out. Still, both of these guys with some really nice accurate hits there through this top block, and there was the finish for Pierre Puy-Barré, who had a concerned look on his face as he took a quick look over to Guillaume Moore, as though maybe Guillaume had done better than he thought, but he was satisfied at the end with the way things turned out for himself. And there you can see, I believe this is the second pocket for Guillaume Moore. He just kept rethinking it.
So that's where we're standing at for the moment, with Puy-Barré on top. Then it's Ferry Swan, Seibert, and of course Guillaume Moore. And this man is standing right next to Pierre, for what I know. And before we go to Puy-Barré, we'll take a closer look at the overall standing for the moment. And there's Puy-Barré on top before Seibert and then Ferry Swan. And now we can go to Guillaume Moore, and he is standing right next to Pierre for an interview. Kesselhaus, can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you. There have been some issues. I've already asked the first question, which was that he just finished the second round and how he's feeling, and he just answered that he's feeling well. He could have done better, but he's fine and he's happy with the result of this round. And now to the second question. Quelle est ta discipline préférée et pourquoi?
Ma discipline préférée, c'est le standing et l'endurance. C'est vraiment les épreuves de hache que je recherche. Ça me plaît vraiment beaucoup. Ouais.
So his favorite discipline is the standing block job because it's just where he's really good at and it's fun for him. So we'll wish him luck for the next discipline. J'espère que tu as beaucoup de chance pour la discipline prochaine.
Merci.
Oui. Merci pour votre temps.
Merci à toi. Merci.
So back to the studio.
Well, the big question is, will he make it into the next discipline? And that's
very
going to
big
depend
question,
on the
yes.
next two heats because they need to have really terrible times in the springboard, which I can't imagine happening. Both of these guys, Koen Martens and Armin Kugler, have very, very solid personal best times in springboard. And again, I talk about the weight of guys being a difference maker, Koen Martens being the lighter slider and for maybe a little bit more agile than Armin Kugler. But Armin Kugler, he surprises you. He's a little bit cat-like, you know? Sometimes you see him come on stage and he kind of saunters on stage.
I'm
with his
very
hat.
sure he hasn't heard that often before.
Probably not.
Armin, you're cat-like.
Not a lot of people are going to look at me and say, hey, you're cat-like, my friend. But to be quite honest with you, when you look at these guys, they're big boys, some of them, right?
Absolutely.
And you have to imagine these big dudes are crawling up a tree, standing on a flimsy piece of toothpick and cutting another hole to set up another wood toothpick and stand on this toothpick and cut away at a huge block at the top of the tree.
It sounds crazy.
It sounds
just
crazy.
Sounds crazy.
Yeah, and the way I sell it, like it does sound a little bit crazy, but you have to be a little bit cat-like in order to be able to pull this off.
True, true.
to your timber.
I'm with you for that one.
3,
That was a very
2,
good explanation,
1,
Troy. Thank
go!
you. It's Koen Martens against Armin the Cat Kugler.
New nickname for Armin Kugler, who took about 6 hits there to set that first pocket. Let's check his board when he gets on there. And look at that. I mean, for a big man, he got up there right fast. Quick, fast, in a hurry, as they say. Koen Martens, I don't know where he's at right now. I can't see him in the picture, but that was a 4-hit pocket for Armin Kugler on number 2. Koen Martens looks like he's already setting his second board in place, so really it's going to come down to who is quickest on the top block. And look at that pull up by Koen Martens. Oh, he's got a bit of sag in that board, Marcus.
He has, yes.
Yeah, and you can see, you know, he can't push off that board, but being the light man that he is, but look at that.
And he's
Armin
not
Kugler,
scared. He keeps on.
Armin Kugler's board is actually sagging down below the 90-degree mark, but he's already onto the other side of his board, so on block, I mean, and Koen Martens could be in a bit of trouble here, and that looks loose for Armin Kugler. And a 1:01.31. That's the fast time of the day so far. So Austria representing well as Koen Martens skips one on the backside there as he tries to get through. He too could have a knot in his block here. And time is running out on Koen Martens. It should do 2 more hits. There it is. Last one, 1:18.20. That's not an awesome time for Koen Martens, but he is more or less safe to make it into the hot saw final, being in position 4 with only 1 more heat to go. So that means if these 2 guys absolutely blast away on the time, Michael Dubicki and Danny Martin, then worst case for Koen Martens is he slips down to 6th place and slides into the hot saw. And right now,
I have to correct you on that one, Troy, because in the overall standing, Koen Martens is in 7th position at the moment.
yeah, in the overall standings, but in the spring, oh, you're right.
I'm
Excuse
sorry.
me.
Yeah,
I lied. Good correction there. Nice catch. Thank you very much. I was looking at the results from springboard and not from the overall. You're absolutely
I'm afraid he's out. Koen Martens is not going to make it to the hot saw.
Yeah, that is too bad because Michael Dubicki and Danny Martin have yet to run in their heats there, so
and
that means
top 6,
Koen Martens, Guillaume Moore, and Red Magnol. Red Magnol is already out, but Koen Martens and Guillaume Moore will not be seen in the hot sauce. So really, it's about Michael Dubicki and Danny Martin just having clean springboards and doing the job they need to do.
And of course, collecting some points.
That won't hurt either.
Good positions for their nations.
Yeah. You can see here, there was a good side-by-side shot. There is Koen Martin setting his second board. And both of these guys, their second boards weren't really optimal, all things considered. Once they got up on the boards, we saw a little bit of sag. And that's what I talk about that weight being a difference maker, you know. Koen Martens being a light guy, he can get up there, and if there's a little bit of sag in his board, it's not going to affect him that much. But Armin Kugler, on the other hand, you could see that that board was sagging down below 90, and that required a lot more effort up top for him in the upper body aspect of things, so he couldn't really use his hips and his back leg to push off of it. And I harp on this a lot, and I talk about this a lot, but it's such a huge aspect of this particular discipline, and that extra sag down and seeing that his foot is so close to actually where the hook is just makes it that much harder. And Koen Martens had a good position up top, but here, this power of Armin Kugler, just nothing really coming close to him in that case. And that's the one place where wrenching is totally okay.
And that was perfect wrenching.
Yeah, it was a perfect
wrench. I mean, really clean that pocket.
Look at that pocket. That's about as clean as it gets, and you just got to get your, extra junk out of there and set your board. I think Koen Martens took a little bit too much time on that one. All right, so heat number 4 coming up between Michael Dubicki and Danny Martin.
So Armin Kugler is going to be very happy with that for the moment.
Yeah.
Just take a look at the overall standings.
Sitting in second place, Pierre-Puy Barret up top, as we've seen him so much this year. But we still have Michael Dubicki and Danny Martin. Danny Martin's been performing really, really well today. I have to give him big props because, he's got plenty of experience and as Germany's champion, he's the guy that everybody's kind of looking at to take the pace forward, and he's doing a great job today, Danny Martin. So kudos to him for sure.
And maybe he feels just a little bit more pressure being at home in Germany.
Yes.
Yeah. Kesselhaus.
There's that added
not
pressure
the crowd, but
being at home, but there's also maybe that helps him a little bit because he doesn't have to go so far to feel at home. It's anybody's guess.
That's a nice way of placing. And also when he talked to Pia, when he said he's never happy with his score, he always wants more. Yeah. He always wants to extend everything. We'll find out how good he's doing in Kesselhaus at the moment because we are ready for the last and final heats of Springboard.
Yes. Okay, so there you see our two very serious competitors here, Michael Dubicki and Danny Martin. Just you can see here, Danny Martin, his personal best is pretty off pace compared to Michael Dubicki, who's got a personal best under a minute on Springboard, which is on one side fantastic because of the size of the man, but also scary because of the size of the man. I mean,
I like that. Yeah,
it's unbelievable, And it's what I said earlier about Armin the Cat. Yeah, I mean, you really do have to have a little bit of those cat-like instincts and reflexes because 2 meters up in the air, if something goes awry, you better land on your feet.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with that axe in your hand. Woo. All right, let's see how we do here.
Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, Dubicki and Martin pretty close on that first pocket. Dubicki's already trying to set that second pocket. He's got a few more than 4. He's at 6 hits thereabouts. So pretty solid so far. Dubicki sets the second board in place. Oh, that's looking like a really nice board for Dubicki. Martin still trying to plan the pocket for his board number 2, so he's got to get that thing working. Finally got his pocket more or less set. Is that board going to be good enough for Danny Martin when he gets up on top? We'll see from a different angle. Can't tell from here if it's got sag or not, but he is already working on that top block. But Michael Dubicki has a perfect angle on his, able to work it nice and solid from the first side. He's going to get through nice and deep, and he'll switch over to the backside fairly quickly. He's not going to make it under a minute, but he is pretty good so far. Dubicki and Danny Martin going at it hard. Dubicki with a 106.97. And Danny Martin almost there. He's working on the odd angle on the backside. You can see his body position and his axe position trying to get through the backside. Did he cut deep enough on the front side? He did. 121.25 for Danny Martin. So if we look at that time there, Danny Martin, 6th place in the springboard, just ahead of Lars Seibert. And Michał Dubicki in 3rd place with a 106.80. So again, the big man, really scary how good he is at this discipline for the size and weight that he's dealing with.
All right, both cuts are good.
So that's all she wrote for springboard. We're done and dusted for rounds 1 and 2. So we're going to get rid of the bottom 2 athletes in our overall standings and move on to the hot saw. But before that, we're going to take a look back at the slow-mo from our springboard. A lot of concentration from Michał Dubicki and Danny Martin. So Dubicki had about, I'm going to say, 6 or so hits for his first pocket. Got that board in place. Quick snap in a hurry. Good position on the board as well. So obviously, he's been training this quite a lot. And that was, I called it a 4-hit pocket, but it was a little bit more than a 4-hit pocket. 4-hit pocket's pretty much perfect. I might even say that was about 7 or 8 hits to get that second pocket set. But that said, he placed this board, and once he got on, that angle was more or less perfect.
Oh,
Didn't
wow.
have any sag at all. Danny Martin's first board was pretty much even. His second board was really good, but it just took him a long time to get in there. So here he is setting his second board. And when we get the other angle, you'll see that second board position is really nice for Danny Martin as well. But he just didn't have enough of, or rather he took a little bit too much time setting those pockets. And this is really the crucial aspect for these guys, is making sure that those pockets are set really well, really fast, and with a good board angle so they can get up there and really start to work. And there you saw Michał Dubicki with a really clean final hit, taking a quick look over at Danny Martin because he knows he's got a good, strong competitor against Danny Martin. But Michał Dubicki is, just like I said, all day long on a tear here this year.
Oh, that's great pictures. Just before we go into the rankings.
Yeah, awesome.
Just having held one of those boards in your hands is very special. But look at that, the big surprise for me, Armin the Cat Kugler.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Puberet in 2nd and Dubicki in 3rd position. And if we take a closer look at the overall standings now, it's Kugler that had moved into 2nd position, and Puberet holding up the flag for France, and Dubicki in bronze position at the moment.
So far. But let's not forget, this is the Nations Cup. So these guys are going to be battling for this score right here. And right now, Poland is still on top, but they're only 1 full point behind France, or ahead of France at the moment. So, yeah, it's a really, really close race between Poland and France.
Yeah, so that's where the points landed. Let's take a closer look at the top 2. Armin Kugler against Pierre Puberet in a head-to-head.
So, Armin Kugler, Pierre Puberet, the 2 fastest guys in the springboard. And you can see here Puberet with a really nice 4-hit pocket. I think he was quick there and got up on that board. Look at this, Armin Kugler, damn. A big man, both of these guys actually. You could nickname these Kitty and Cat the way they move up there. Puberet was just a little bit quicker with his second board, but watch what happens.
So where did Kugler gain those 4 seconds advantage?
Yeah, it's probably on the top here, but you can see the difference between these 2 guys on their boards, right? Both of them are sagging a little bit, and Pierre Puberet, he's standing really in the middle. Yeah, he's standing in the middle of his board. Kugler, on the other hand, is a little bit farther back, and he's actually attempting to push off that back leg, even though that board is sagging a bit. So he's not really trusting it 100%, but you could see here, he just had a really good block on the top there, and he was digging through the backside really fast. You could see it start to loose up a bit, and then it goes down. Well, Puberet is about 2-3 strokes behind, and that's where those seconds that you asked about came from.
What a comeback from Kugler.
It was really good job. I mean, Kugler was slower getting up to the top of the blocks, but it was really solid once he was up there. And even though the boards were sagging a little bit, he did a good job to really work through that sagging section by trying to push off the back of the board anyway.
And we talked a lot about the wood, because he said that some of the wood that we used today obviously was very good for great times.
Yep.
Shall we take a closer look where that wood comes from?
Yes, please.
Hi, my name's Spike Milton, Global Sports Director for STIHL Timbersports. Today we are in a plantation of young poplar. And one of the biggest challenges that I face as part of my role is to ensure that our competitions are supplied with the highest quality wood. We as STIHL Timbersports pride ourselves that all wood is sustainably grown, harvested and recycled to minimise the overall amount of wood processed. Firstly, this poplar wood is grown on certified plantations. These are fast-growing hybrids which are 100% sustainable. The plantations are predominantly used for the packaging industry, and therefore our trees can be considered as a side product. Secondly, the white pine for our sawing disciplines is only sourced from certified forest management. No matter where the wood is coming from, it is always harvested with minimum impact on the natural environment.
Each individual tree is examined for its conformation before processing. What we are looking for is consistency, which means not just how straight the tree is, but also how uniformly round the wood is. We need to make it fair for all athletes. So we are selecting different sections of the trees to use for each of our specific disciplines.
I'm Bart Jensen, Head of Wood Management, and together with Spike we have a wealth of knowledge and experience with long-term sustainable wood management.
With our resistograph we also measure the density of the wood. That is how hard or how soft the wood is and if there are nuts in it. To ensure the quality and high standards required for premium competition wood, we need to have a consistent grain structure with a uniform size, thus providing equal standards for all of our athletes.
I don't see any nuts, so this forest is good for me.
Once the trees are felled, extracted and transported to our facilities, we measure, mark and then cut the wood into sized blocks.
Daan Jansen, as a specialist chainsaw operative, I oversee the further processing of our premium competition wood, from the plantation to the stage.
Removing all visible imperfections and knots which could affect the chopping or sawing of the block. We then peel the blocks ready for competition. After careful selection, the blocks then leave our yard and are distributed internationally to our STIHL Timbersports competitions, guaranteeing fair competitions for all our pro, intermediate, rookie and women athletes.
After all our STIHL competitions, all the spent wood is collected and recycled right down to the wood chips and sawdust, which, for example, is converted into renewable energy in the form of wood pellets for biomass. Only 2/3 of all organic residues results from competitions. 1/3 is already from wood preparation. In order to achieve a long-term consistent premier wood supply for the coming years, we quest to find certified partners. This ensures that all newly planted trees are nurtured and managed, promoting maximum efficiency and sustainability for the future conservation of our valuable forests. Therefore, as you can see, with good harvesting practices and good management with silviculture, the ground is quickly replaced by new trees, or could even be used for arable for farmers and future rotations.
Well, I think it doesn't get more professional than this. And Troy, how about the hot saw? You ready for that?
Always ready for the hot saw. Bit of a gas head myself. Love this stuff. But it's a tough one. It's a really tough one. If I said that the springboard was finicky, hot saw, it's even worse.
Well, and all you need to know about the hot saw, that's coming up right now.
These custom, handmade, race-tuned machines are built for maximum power and precision and to cut the wood as fast as possible in a competition. They are built with a 60 to 80 horsepower single-cylinder two-stroke engine often taken from a snowmobile or high-powered motorbike. The hot saw can weigh up to 30 kilograms, and its chain rotates at over 250 kilometers an hour. The cost of a competition hot saw used in STIHL Timbersports is upward of 6,000 euros. Hot saw. For the hot saw, power saws are called into action, and the athletes have a space of 15 centimeters to cut 3 complete discs off a 46 centimeter thick wooden block. Jumping the start or cutting over the line will result in a disqualification.
Six athletes remaining, and these are our 3 heats. In heat number 1, Ferry Swan will take on Lars Seibert. In heat 2, it will be Danny Martin against Michael Dubitsky. And finally, in heat number 3, Armin Kugler taking on Pierre Puberet. Off we go.
Yes, and this discipline is the maker or the breaker, as they call it. It is the one discipline that can decide a win or a loss in an event like this. And our first heat with Ferry Swan going up against Lars Seibert. We saw the personal best from both of these guys, 6.71 and 6.20. The world record, I believe, is 5.20. Is that correct, Marcus?
Yep,
correct me if I'm wrong.
5.20. You saw.
And that is an absolutely blistering pace. And oh my God, I'm going deaf just listening to these saws on their warm-up rounds here. This is going to go by fast, folks. Do not blink. These guys have an intimate relationship with each of their saws. They absolutely know these saws inside and out. They know how long they need to warm it up for.
Seconds.
And they only have a certain amount of time to warm them up here, so they have to do that within the time frame allowed. They actually have only one wrap there and a backup wrap or a pull start. If that pull start doesn't work, if the machine stalls out on the first start, they have to rewrap that cord to restart it. That is a time killer. So the best situation is get it started and get cutting. Once you're cutting, though, that's just the beginning of the effort. You got to cut 3 cookies inside that 15 centimeter mark, and you can't cut out the line wrestling these big beasts. Here we go.
2, 1, go!
All right, good start by both of these guys. Ferry Swan, a little bit of a mistake on the upcut, and Lars Seibert has to reset on his third cut on the way down. And Ferry Swan with a 7.44, Lars Seibert with a 9.34. A lot of hesitation by both of these guys on this one, but it looks like we have good cookies all around, so they should be safe and with 3 cuts down the way. So let's see. Lars Seibert is looking not very happy at his. Did he cut outside the line? Does he have an incomplete cookie? Oops. Looks like he's got an incomplete cookie. They're going to look to try and find a piece that might have broken off as it fell down. Looks like that piece might actually be there. Let's see what the judge says.
No, that would be like not getting to the third
Both
round.
cuts are good.
So you see, now this is the interesting situation here. They had a cookie that had a little pizza pie piece cut out of it. Wasn't actually cut out. What happened is probably that cookie hit the deck and it just broke out, which does happen, especially if there's already a cookie on the floor and the edge of the new cookie falls down on it. If that's the case, and that cookie can be located and they can match it up to the space in what's left, then it's considered a safe cut. But you can see here, there was a little bit of hesitation by these guys in a couple of instances where these saws were just not really cutting properly. And there's a cutout right there. You don't want that to happen, so you got to reposition the saw. So for both these guys, really not the optimal cut day on hot saw.
Great reactions to the situations.
Yeah, and I mean, look at that one-handed lift by Ferry Swan. And you and I both lifted Danny Martin's saw in here in studio. Those things are heavy. I can't even imagine lifting it with one hand after starting it and thinking, oh, Jesus, this thing's wiggling and rumbling in my hand, and trying to find where the trigger is with my other hand to get that saw actually going.
Perfect position.
And then you got to line it up and cut 3 cookies. I mean, Jesus, what's going on here? All right. Next up, we got Danny Martin, speak of the devil, and he's going up against Michal Dubicki. Now, Danny Martin is really strong in this discipline. Look at that time that he's got as a personal best, 5:59. That's really, really, really close to the 5:20 of the world record. So that is a very, very good sign for Danny Martin. He could take a big step here in this hot saw competition and in the overall standings. But Michal Dubicki, this guy, he has just been so solid this year.
You saw.
Let's wait for the sound. There we go.
Enjoy the silence.
But just for a few seconds.
Earlier on, you saw Ferry Swan actually checking the distance from his log with his hand, like, you know, giving us the hang loose, but upside down. It's interesting how precise their setups are. And just, you know, Danny Martin, for instance, he can just look at where his saw is in relation to that block, that 46 centimeter block, and know if the saw is sitting in the right spot. That's how into this these guys are.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Danny Martin looking good. Michal Dubicki struggling a little bit on that top one. Danny Martin with a 6.38. Michal Dubicki with an 8.11. And that's a good time for Danny Martin. Fast time of the day. Dubicki in third place with the 8.11. He'll get 12 points out of this one right now. But Danny Martin, if he holds that top spot in that fast time, 18 points belong to him. And that will bode well for the overall standings for Germany as well as for Danny Martin in the individual side of things.
And that would mean that Dubicki and Danny Martin would have 59 points both.
Tied for top spot.
Oh, my word.
All right, both cuts are good.
Okay, so now it gets interesting with two other guys that are very strong in this discipline going to come out on stage here, Armin Kugler and Pierre Puy-Barré. Before they come out, though, the stage will be reset, and we'll have a slow-mo peek at the run from Michal Dubicki and Danny Martin. So again, all the setup, all that practice, all that training, all that rigging and fumbling with the saw to make that thing run exactly right. Danny Martin, really nice start there. Thin to win is the ticket. And Danny Martin had really 3 great cookies. Dropped them on the deck quick. Yeah, and Dubicki struggled on that upstroke a little bit. Had to try and find the lineup for his third cookie. And Danny Martin, he was a little bit slow in getting that first cut going. But watch this. Hardly any bottom swing as he comes up for that upstroke. And then on the downstroke, it was just right over in line and bang on. And look at that. Michal Dubicki's saw pulled itself into the block, and that meant the fairing part of the motor was pushing up against the block, but he controlled that saw really well. You could see here also not much of a downswing as he switches position for the upstroke. And right here, the saw in this case will be pushing away. So there's so much going on there, so much going on. But look at the time.
And so much math that's going to be necessary within the next few seconds.
I know. I'm glad we have our timing data guys here taking care of us. Otherwise, I'd be lost. All right, Puy-Barré and Kugler are up next in the hot saw in heat number 3, and that will be our last heat in this discipline and for the day. And then we'll take a look at the hot saw standings, the overall standings, and the Nations Cup standings. Pierre Puy-Barré slightly better than Armin Kugler with a 6.32 to a 7.06 as personal best. But what we've been talking about all day long doesn't necessarily mean anything. Could be a false start by Armin Kugler, giving the opportunity for Puy-Barré to go ahead and vice versa. And because these saws are so I mean, anytime, you know, if you've ever messed around with a car and tried to make a car high performance, porting and polishing cams, making the thing faster, putting on a lowered suspension, changing the brakes, all of that stuff, whether you do it or you don't, all of those performance things require constant upgrades and constant maintenance. And that's no difference with these saws. So small things can really affect how they perform. So let's see if these guys really have this locked up. And interestingly enough, both of these guys are using the same blade style, that long, straight blade. Look at that. Minor adjustments, just minor adjustments, but it's all about the feeling. These guys know it so well where they have to place that saw. It's incredible. This really is a classic duel between these two as well. They've been at this so long, and they've been against each other so many times in this discipline and so many others.
It's
a real good one.
Ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Puy-Barré with a great start. Armin Kugler slightly behind pace here, and Puy-Barré is looking good for the cut, and he's got 7.85 to a 7.96. Oh, but Puy-Barré decided he had to go back and cut a fourth cookie. Something was not right there, and he's going to check to make sure that he's got all the cookies that he needs on the deck, and he hasn't cut over the line by the looks of it, so that's going to cost him time. He cut 4. I don't know why. I didn't see any problem with the 3 cookies. Maybe he saw something there that we didn't.
He must have seen something, but I didn't. I think he was fine.
I have a feeling he was fine too, but obviously he saw a cutout or a break or something that he wasn't satisfied with. Maybe he felt that that one cookie was just a bit too thin and was worried. Yeah, you can see, huh? Oh well, that's the way it goes. So he cut an extra cookie, and that's going to cost time.
Both cuts are good.
I'm curious to know where Puy-Barré's time is, though. Wow, 7.66 to a 7.88 with adjustment. So they didn't count that last cookie by the looks of it, because everything was
like it, yeah.
was interesting, though, because and this is a question that I would have, because he decided to go back and cut an extra cookie. Should the time continue running? It was his decision, and maybe we'll see a little bit more closely what he was looking at. So here's the first cookie. Actually looks really good. Nice and thin, no breakage. Second cookie looked solid as well. The third cookie was really thin, and maybe he looked at that and went, oops, and I got to cut another one. And then he did it anyway. So for me, that time should continue running. That means he should be around 9, 10 seconds. And this one should go to Armin Kugler without a doubt. It's interesting how that played out, even with the fourth cookie in line. And see there, he took the time, he reset the saw, and goes down for the fourth cookie. Yeah, it's a judging thing that we would have to ask about down the road. He felt it was no good. The judges felt it was okay, and timing stopped at that third cookie. So actually, Armin Kugler with a 7.88 sits in 5th place in hot saw, with Pierre Puy-Barré with a 7.66 in 3rd place. And if you look at this, we've got 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th all in the 7-second range. Danny Martin with the fastest time at 6:28, and Lars Seibert with the slowest time at 9:08. So it's a German sandwich in the hot saw final. So Pierre Puy-Barré moves to the top of the standings in the final results, with Danny Martin in 2nd place, and surprisingly, Michael Dubicki in 3rd place. So a bronze podium position for him, first time in a while.
And now it's time for the drum roll. We are awaiting the Nations Cup ranking, and believe it or not, Poland have done it. They stay on top all the way from the start to the end. It's Poland winning gold, France silver, and Germany bronze. So now we have the top 2 in in the head-to-head before we go for big celebrations. But that was unbelievable.
Yeah, and I think you can basically say that the Grunwald boys really did the extra little bit of work out there for Poland. And,
definitely the extra, not a little bit of work.
They stepped it one notch up to make sure that the guys that did go in on the pro side were really well padded, let's put it this way, as they go through the pro competition. And Michael Dubicki, he did a great job. There's no two ways about it. But yeah, let's see.
Very
Swan take a look back at
against Danny Martin. That's one we're still missing out. The head-to-head that's coming up.
Let's get it on
before we go to Nations Cup, because that was only a fraction between them. 1 second.
Yeah, 1.03. And Danny Martin was really clean with his cuts. Ferry Swan struggled a little bit. He had one cutout, had to reset at the bottom because he noticed it right away. But, you know, that's how quick he is. He saw that, and it happens within, you know, less than a 7-second range for these guys. And if they see that cutout, then they can go, whoops, I got to go back down and recut it again.
And you have to decide.
I mean, Ferry Swan, even with the cutout, managed to get a 7:31.
Very
That's
impressive.
incredible. I mean, that's great. So, yeah, good job.
So hopefully we're going to get the top scores again of the Nations Cup, because we do not have this on our lists right here. And I think, well, we can only congratulate Poland.
Yeah,
to,
I mean,
fantastic competition.
You know,
but of course, you know, France coming in, Germany in 3.
Germany was a little bit lower down in the ranking early on, and especially after the rookies, and they really worked their way back up with through the pro guys. I mean, the rookies did a great job, no doubt about it, and the pro guys just supported them the rest of the way, and then they ended up in second place. France and Switzerland were jockeying around 2, 3, 4. There was a point there where Switzerland was sitting in 5th place, but they did make a nice comeback to end up in the top 4. So we've got Poland, Germany, and France for the top 3 in the Nations Cup.
So with that list, we can see the Netherlands in position 9. 8 goes to Belgium. And I wish we could tell you all the rest, which we will be able to do in just a few moments. So the Netherlands with Knoll and Breukman. We'll see them move in just a second. 8th position goes to Belgium. Martens and Verhaert, the ones that are going to be getting into the Kesselhaus. So we have 4 athletes for Sweden. That's position number 7, Svan, Hansson, Karlsson and Björns. Sixth place in this European Nations Cup goes to Austria. Kugler, Dallinger, Wagesreiter and Konicek. They made it to number 5. Italia, Rossi, Delpin, Perin and Giapponi.
Giapponi, hey! Fantastic.
And then 4th position goes to Switzerland. Congratulations to Bühler, Bira, Reinhardt and Haas. As for the top 3, we directly go into the Kesselhaus for the winner's celebration. Pia, it's down to you. Let's hear it for the top 3 nations.
Yes, unbelievable. What a day. We've seen the best European timber sports athletes from 9 different nations competing against each other. And it's been thrilling. And in my mind, the venue made it even more memorable. But I'll stop rhapsodizing for now and I'll get right into it. I'll continue with the 3rd place and winner of the bronze medal are Danny Martin, Lars Seibert, Marcel Steinhemper and Danny Fielberg, representing Germany. Technical issues. It's not Germany who is in the 3rd place, it's France. My mistake, I'm sorry. So Pierre Piouberet, Guillaume Moore, Loïc Vincent and Sébastien Bateau, they have the bronze medal. Congratulations. We'll continue with the second place, who are claiming silver, which is Germany. Now it's Germany, with Danny Martin, Lars Seiwert, Marcel Steinkemper and Danny Fielwert, representing Germany. And now, what we've all waited for. The first place winner of gold medal and European Nations Cup winner 2021 are Mikkel Dubicki, Christian Kaczmarek, Simon Grünwald, Mikołaj Grömelt, representing Poland. The winner team is not only receiving gold medals, no, they're receiving a spectacular trophy as well. Look at this. Wow. Congratulations. Unique competition up, we now hear in honors of the winner team the national anthem of Poland. Let's open up the champagne. A champagne shower is following. Oh my God. Real man with real emotions. How are you feeling being part of this?
Yeah, we are really happy, so very nice.
What's going on in your head right now?
Yes, very good. We are very happy and we strong.
And do you want to tell anything out in the world?
Yeah, we are...
Some greetings to family members, to anyone.
Yeah, we are so happy, family happy, nice.
Congratulations from my side as well.
Power! Power! Power!
that's it from my side for today. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I did. It's been a long day. Still, have a nice evening or morning wherever you are, wherever you're tuning in from over the world. And I hope we'll see each other tomorrow at the Austrian Championship 2021. I'm already excited. I hope you're too. And one last time, back to the studio, Marcus.
Well, kiss my axe. How cool was that, Troy? The first European Nations Cup 2021.
Fantastic.
And they were having a ball. Great times.
Yep, happy family, happy winners. Couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, what a great competition we had today. We saw the rookies, we saw the pros. In the end, everybody had to work a little bit for each other, and hence the Nations Cup. What a day. What a day.
Absolutely. Congratulations to Poland, and the highlights of the day coming up for your entertainment right now. For Troy and me, it's time to say goodbye and hopefully see you tomorrow.